Welcome to a new podcast with the two mics.
Is that it?
What do you mean, is that it?
Is that your intro to our podcast?
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
It lacks passion, it lacks power, it lacks energy. It should be, hello folks, welcome to a new podcast from the two mics.
Dear me. Coming up, we'll tell you what your holiday snaps say about you, why bumblebees have got their own personalities, and when Eton should start to become more democratic. Plus, we're talking to a couple of Hollywood stars ahead of today's release of the summer blockbuster Suicide Squad. 0844 499 1000 is the number to call. Later on in the show, it's the Porky Quiz as well, and today's subject of expertise, quite timely, of course, is the Olympics. We'll find out how much Porky knows as an expert on such a matter. You're listening to Two Mics with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Radio. This is Talk Radio. We are the two mics, and I'm delighted to say, even more delighted than you can possibly imagine, that I'm going to say good afternoon for the last time to Mr. Mike Porky Parry. Very good afternoon to you.
Yeah, very good afternoon to you as well,
I
fat
can't
face.
wait to get out of here.
No, I can't wait to get out of here
Get
today.
away from you for 2 weeks.
You're moaning.
It's going to be absolute and utter bliss.
You know, rather ugly face staring at me across the
well, all you've got to
broadcasting
stare at
desk
now is
every
your
day.
own mirror, sadly.
No, not at all, not at all. Incidentally, I agree with you, everything about the show. It's all looking good, and
Yes.
It's going to be very
It's
entertaining.
going to be a great show.
But I think you've made a mistake here. We haven't talked to anybody from the Suicide Squad film.
Well, I have to have a bit of a confession to make, actually.
Sorry, what's that?
Before you got in today, I did a little recorded interview with the two stars of the movie.
What do you mean?
Mr. Joel Kinnaman, who you might know from House of Cards, and a very nice young Australian actor called Jai Courtney.
What are you doing this for?
Well, I was asked to interview...
Excuse me, I don't remember being asked to get involved with some Hollywood stars.
They did not mention that
What?
to you. Did they not mention it to you? I thought they'd asked you to do it.
Are you... What's going on here?
Listen, all I can tell you is that, you know, the decision was taken at a very high level. The Hollywood stars and you just don't mix very well.
Oh, is that right?
You remember when we had Will Ferrell on?
Yeah.
And we had his mate...
It's not my fault I didn't recognise Will Ferrell.
Mark Wahlberg.
It wasn't my fault.
Yeah, you didn't know the plot of the film.
Well,
you know, it was
no,
all very embarrassing.
I hadn't seen the film.
Yeah.
So what's this? Suicide Squad?
A great film.
Sounds
called
like a load
Suicide
of rubbish.
Squad. It's a great film. It's a Marvel Comics scenario, right?
Oh,
so
fun. All right,
people
right.
that
Let me tell you how good this film is. Right. I have just, since I read our running order, discovered the treachery that
you actually read the running order, did you?
Yeah, the treachery that you've already unveiled upon me. I've asked our producer to give me a couple of reviews of this film, which came out today. Right, here we go. Here we go. The summer blockbuster. It says Nutters versus Terrorists. It's a hoot. Supervillains join the CIA. This is from Kate Muir in the Times. I bet you she's giving it 1 out of... She's giving it 4 out of 5.
She's giving it 4 out of 5. But also in the Daily Mail, it's been given 4 out of 5 by your friend and mine, Mr. Brian Viner.
Brian Viner, man.
I
have to say, Brian Viner is a top man. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Well, we'll hear from those guys later on. And I'm terribly sorry that somehow you were missed out. But, you know,
I wasn't missed out. Things. I declined the invitation.
No.
I couldn't get here in time.
You couldn't get here in time?
I couldn't get here in time.
Why not?
I was dealing with issues...
Were you up in Chester or somewhere?
No.
Or were you over on the other side of the channel?
No, I was dealing with issues pertaining to extraneous activities.
What? What sort of activities?
I had to go and see our distributors this morning, so
really?
I wasn't able to get here in time.
Well, I've got a question for you about our distributors later on, but that's another matter.
Okay.
We'll get there later.
All right. Now, I'll tell you what I want to talk to you about.
What I
want to talk to you about is the fact that you are allegedly off on holiday after the show today.
Well, there's nothing allegedly about it. I'm going. I'm off.
No, it's mass bladderation.
It is not. I'm going on a family holiday with my children, and you know, we're going to be in a very nice villa. We're going to be sunning ourselves. We'll be going to the beach a few times, and you know, as you said, with the bucket and spade.
Yes.
And a bit of snorkeling. There will be probably some whining and dining at some point or other, perhaps later on towards the end of the day, but certainly not during the day, because obviously I have to be responsible for my kids.
Yeah. Well, as you can't be honest about it, I shall repeat a conversation we had a couple of days ago, in which you said you can't wait to get over to wherever you're going in the Balearics. That's a big enough, you know,
the Mediterranean.
vagueness.
It's a Mediterranean destination.
And
why are you so obsessed with where I'm going?
Excuse me. And I said, oh, that'd be nice. You know, enjoy, you know, all the intimacy of being with your family and your two boys and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you
my
said,
daughter's coming as well.
And your daughter's coming with her fiance and all that. And
it'd be lovely.
And you said, and getting bladdered all day as well.
That's not what I said.
No, you did.
No,
I'm afraid you did.
As everyone who knows you very well,
afraid you did.
As everyone who knows you very well will attest. You know, there is very, very, very rarely has there been a chance for you to actually utter the truth.
Yes.
During the last 2 days doing this show.
Yes.
So yeah, of course there'll be a bit of sangria.
There will be a bit then. Will be a bit
in the evening. Yeah. But during the day, right? Here's the problem. During the day, I'm the only one that's got a license to drive the car.
Right.
So I'm going to have to be completely drink-free until we get home.
Sorry, I thought the mother of your children actually had a new car. So
she has got a new car.
She can drive a car in this country. Why can't she drive a car in the Balearics?
Because it's a manual car, which she doesn't really drive very well. So I've been tasked with doing all the driving.
Sorry, what do you mean?
So we've rented a manual car. It was the only car they had, because it's very busy there.
What? Somebody can't drive a manual car.
Lots of people can't drive manual cars. My daughter can't drive a manual car either.
Yes, but your daughter was brought up mostly in America where they don't have manual cars.
They don't have manual cars.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they do, but they're quite hard to find.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And she can't. I took her out once in my
Japanese
mother's manual Volkswagen Beetle, and she had a terrible time.
Yes, yeah. Well, I find that rather surprising.
I had to take over. She burst into tears and said, "I can't do it, Daddy."
Is that right?
And so I had to just drive the car home.
Okay. Will you be settling down on the old sun lounger and reading a book or two while you're away?
Well, I've been thinking about taking a book with me, but I'm not sure. I've got Keith Richards' book. I've got loads of books that I've been given over the years, most of which have remained unread.
Yes.
Right? And the last time I read a book was when I went on holiday in Mexico last year, when I took a Martin Amis book.
Why don't you, if you want, I can give you a copy of There's an Awful Lot of Bubbly in Brazil.
Why would I want that?
Well, because you might want to read it.
Well, is this the same one that says the sky was inky black, the snow was as white as a tin of Dulux paint?
Why are you mocking the way Mr. Brazil speaks?
Why on earth would I want to read a book that had that kind of ridiculous prose in it?
What do you mean ridiculous prose? That's
he didn't write the book.
Mr. Brazil said.
You wrote the book.
Do you know what annoys me more than anything when I get on the tube or a train or something? It's when I see somebody reading a book. And I think...
Why?
I think you...
Why would you be annoyed by someone reading a book?
Because I think you lost individual.
I saw somebody reading Gabriel Garcia Marquez yesterday on the tube. And when you see somebody reading a book...
What is it?
Well, he's a very famous South American writer. Have you never heard of Gabriel Garcia Marquez?
Gabriel who?
Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
No, and I bet you the millions of listeners who tune into this station never heard of him either.
Well, we'll see. You can tweet us if you've never heard of him.
What an incredibly pompous sort of name to just spray out in the early
years of solitude,
the early minutes of our show. No, what I was going to say was... I get annoyed because I think there is so much going on in life.
Does it not? Do you not feel inferior because you go, look, there's somebody reading a book which I can't do because I can't concentrate? Because you can't concentrate long enough to read a book.
I've read millions of books. Listen,
really? What's your favourite book
of all time?
Yeah,
The Pillars of the Earth.
The Pillars of the Earth
by Ken Follett.
Which
was a fantastic historical adventure, and it's really or David Copperfield,
rubbish,
which I thought was a great book.
You've never read that.
I have.
I don't
now,
believe you.
let me just tell you. See, when I see this person reading the book, I think you poor individual. Your life is so empty because if the only thing you can do when you're sitting on a train is read a book, you should A, be reading a newspaper which imparts information into your head.
Why?
You should B, be looking at your phone or your screen to pick up on...
I thought you didn't like people looking at their phones either.
I have nothing against it at all. To pick up on the information that people are sending you, to respond to something that's happening in your working life, your domestic life or something like that. Or 3, and I find this a very underrated pastime, staring out of the train window to pick up on what's happening out there in life. Do you see what I mean?
It's not much help if you're in a tunnel, is it?
Well, you're not in tunnel very long in this country. You're not in tunnels very long. But when I see people reading a book,
when I see constantly in a tunnel.
When I see people, in a tube, I agree. When I see a person reading a book on the train, I think your life is so empty. If you constantly want to cut yourself off from reality by plunging your brain into a situation which is fictional, because it normally is novels they're reading.
Not always.
Normally novels they're reading. I feel sorry for them. You have no life. If you're reading a novel on the train or the tube, you have no life.
That's a ridiculous point of view.
Because you're seeking oblivion.
Right.
You're seeking a way out.
What if they're reading a non-fiction book? Is that okay with you?
No, that's still not good enough.
Why?
Because
that's imparting information into their heads?
No, it's not. It's not. What it usually is doing is it's distracting them from the realities of life.
By the way.
The realities of life.
Well, where were you when you read Ken Follett's book?
What?
Where were you when you read that, if you're not allowed to read it on the train?
I was younger and I was acquiring knowledge on fiction. The reason I'm telling you all this...
Answer the question. Where did you read the book?
I can't remember, because I've been to lots of places in my life,
like
you.
Oh, really?
Now, what I was going to say is, the reason I tell you all this is because a recent survey says that people who read books actually live longer.
People who read books live longer. Well, there you go. There's another good reason to read a book.
And do you know why?
Why?
Because their brain is tussling with the trials and tribulations that the plot of a book presents to them in their head.
Absolutely.
So, for instance...
Well, you can get lost in a book. I mean, when I was reading the book last summer...
But I don't think that's a good thing.
Oh, it is a good thing.
No, that's like getting drunk.
It's a particularly good... Well, you don't mind doing that, do you?
No, it's equivalent to getting drunk. Reading a book is the equivalent to getting bladderated and drunk.
Yes.
Because what you're doing is you're cutting yourself off from real life.
But also, you can't do both. You can't read a book while drunk.
I've tried that sometimes, and you get past the first 3 pages, and then the words start to sort of.
Why would you try reading a book when you were drunk?
Well, I've been in a situation. I thought I'll relax today. Now, what is the definition of relaxation?
In your case,
yes,
well, it's the same as whether you're not relaxing.
Hang on. A couple of large glasses of Pinot Grigio, sitting on the old sun lounger there, and this book. I'll just lie back and read it. Yeah. Unfortunately, after the second glass of Pinot Grigio,
there goes the book.
The words seem to duplicate themselves and all that kind of stuff.
You keep reading the same page.
Yeah, that's right. And the book becomes very uninteresting. Yes. Very, very uninteresting.
Yeah, as indeed to you.
I threw one in a swimming pool once, actually.
Did you?
Out of frustration, yeah.
Well, who was in the pool?
Nobody. I mean, I was staying at somebody's villa in somewhere outside Marbella, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that other place called?
Malaga?
No, Puerto
Banús?
Puerto Banús.
You were in Puerto Banús, were you?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, exactly.
Did you go to Sinatra's bar?
Oh, every night.
Yeah.
And also, I think Lineker's bar was there.
There is. His brother's
That's
got
right. Yeah, it was. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, now,
I'll tell you who else had one.
Yeah.
A former Spurs and Everton player had a bar out there as well.
Who was that?
You
can't remember his name.
No, little chap.
Little chap.
And he played for England, and I can't remember his name.
No, well, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, wish you could. Yeah.
Well, anyway, we haven't got any more time now because you talked your way through the entire first segment of the show. We've got loads coming up. We're doing a quiz on the Olympics, so I hope you're up to speed on all the things that are going on over in Brazil at the moment.
It's one of my pet sports.
Is it?
Yeah.
One of your pet subjects. Have you ever covered the Olympics?
Yes, Atlanta, 1996.
Okay, all right.
Atlanta, Georgia.
We'll make sure there's no questions about that then.
I met Michael, what's his name, with his gold boots.
Michael, what's his name?
Yeah, what's his name?
Michael
Johnson. Michael Johnson with his gold shoes.
I'm sure he remembers it well. This is Talk Radio. We are the Two Mics.
Getting these things out is a great technical skill.
Uh-huh.
However, it would be better if they could speed their act up a bit.
It wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yes.
So yesterday they put out a podcast from the previous day's show.
That's right.
Thinking it was yesterday's show.
Yes.
Even though it came out after yesterday's
show. Well, I then
show.
saw a few tweets saying that our podcasts are now becoming like London buses, to use the old cliche.
Uh-huh.
You don't get one for 2 days and then they all come along at the same time.
That's very true, yes. That's very true. Now, what have you been up to anyway today? Because, of course, as you said, you weren't able to get here early enough to do the interview with the Hollywood legends that we're going to be talking to a little bit later on.
No.
So what have you been doing?
Have
you been studying your journals?
Well, I have to study journals because I have to find out what's going on. But, I mean, I had to apply myself to some property matters this morning.
Yeah.
Because, of course, you have to constantly review things like service charges and charges for
what you mean is as part of your sort of slum landlord empire?
Well, I haven't got a slum landlord empire. What I've done is I've been a wise investor in property throughout the last 30 years, and it's now paying off. But I tell you something, I wish I'd been a wiser investor in property because guess what I found out?
What did you find out?
Researching my property journals this morning. I found out a list of the 30 most expensive homes in the world.
Oh, really?
Which are currently up for sale.
Well, they must be out of your area, though, surely.
Well, they are way out. I didn't realise that a house now obviously, it's in America, it's in Bel Air, and it has reached the almost mind-boggling price of $500 million.
$500 million?
It's worth $500 million.
Wow.
Niall Niamey, Bel Air, Spec Home, California.
How many bedrooms?
The film producer turned property developer Niall Niamey, is building a 100,000 square foot Bel Air estate. The property will have 5 swimming pools.
5 swimming pools? Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I don't know.
That's totally ridiculous.
Why do you need 5 swimming pools? A putting green, a tennis court, casino, nightclub, bowling alley, spa, fresh flower storage.
Fresh flower storage? Why do they have a sign outside the house saying fresh flower storage?
No, I think what it is... No, I further developed this. They have so many flowers in the house all day long that it would take a local florist all day to send vans up to replace them, so they put them in storage there.
So they've just got their own flower shop, basically?
They've got their own flower shop, basically, yeah. A 45-seater theatre. So think about when we do the H&J, the Two Mics Live.
The H&J?
Yeah.
Do you mean the Hen and Chickens?
What did I say?
You said the H&J.
Sorry, guys.
I don't believe... I mean, it's brilliant as Hawksby and Jacobs are. There isn't actually a theatre named after them yet.
No, there's not yet, but there will be. The H&C, which is the Hen and Chickens, right? That's got 50 seats, right? So it's about the same size as that.
Right.
A 30-car...
You would love that, wouldn't you?
What?
You could just go and perform in front of an audience of invited guests every single night.
Well, not every night.
No, you would. No, if you had a house like that, you would invite 50 people every night to come and watch you doing your shtick for an hour on your own.
No, once a week or once a month or something. I'd say, come round, fellas, have a few drinks. They get intoxicated. Then I'd get up on stage and they'd laugh at anything because they'd be so bladderated. Good way to guarantee laughs. Anyway, to go on, a 30-car gallery.
Maybe you should do that while I'm away.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll think. Yeah, that's a good idea. I might go and
just go and do the Camden Fringe.
Hi, the Hen and Chickens. Yeah, a 30-car gallery. That means a car park for 30 cars, obviously.
Yes, I thought that.
Yeah, a living room with tanks of jellyfish.
30 cars. Why would you need 30 cars?
I don't know.
I suppose if you invited 50 people round to watch you perform, that's where they could all park.
Well, that's true. A living room with all the walls are tanks of jellyfish instead of walls.
What?
All the walls are live tanks of jellyfish.
Why would you have jellyfish?
I don't know. Instead of the walls.
I love the idea of a wall made out of a fish tank.
Yes.
I've always wanted one of those.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you see them in movies, and like the whole wall is made of glass.
I think Thierry Henry had one in his house in North London.
Did he, in Hampstead?
No, it's further north. You know that enclave further north?
Well, up sort of Mill Hill way?
I think it's even further north than that.
Well, how far north are you going? Watford?
No, but...
you can't get much further north than Mill Hill.
No, our old pal Richard Littlejohn lived there, and his neighbour was Dennis Bergkamp.
Are you talking about Crouch End?
Well, no, it's further...
Well, that's where Littlejohn lived.
No, it's almost like Enfield way.
Enfield.
But what's it called? It's called...
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a very, very exclusive
neighbourhood. I have no
neighbourhood.
idea what you're talking about.
All right, well, I'll remember it in a minute. Anyway, to go on about this great house, right? Living room with tanks of jellyfish. Now, it's called The One, i.e. the best house in the world.
Uh-huh.
It will be enclosed on 3 sides by a moat and water features. Yeah. And water features will make the house appear to float.
Yeah.
The house will appear, the structural way that they've done the moat is it looks like the house is floating.
They've obviously been giving this far too much thought.
On water. If it achieves the asking price of $500 million, it will be the most paid for a home anywhere in the world. The record is currently held by the Versailles-inspired chateau.
Versailles?
Yeah, Versailles-inspired...
The S is silent.
That's right, yeah. The Versailles-inspired chateau, Louis XIV, in Le de France, which sold at the end of last year for $301 million.
Yeah. Who to?
Well, it doesn't say.
It's
either, I would imagine, a Russian, Indian, Chinese businessman or maybe somebody from the Middle East.
Have you ever driven around Bel Air and all those kind of places like Hollywood and Beverly Hills and everything?
Sort of.
So what do you mean, yes? It's a yes or no question.
Well, I've dined on Rodeo Drive and had a tour of the area afterwards.
But you haven't driven around? I mean, I've had to drive around Beverly Hills a few times looking for various people.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And try to find... Well, the bizarre thing is...
All the security guys get you, don't they?
Well, apart from anything else, the bizarre thing is that there's a coach, as you probably know, maybe you went on it, which has got a map to the stars' homes.
Yes.
So you can just drive around in a coach and see where they all live. But the bottom line is that, actually, if you're trying to find someone, there's nobody. I got lost once in the middle of Beverly Hills, and there's nobody to ask the way.
No.
Because all there is a load of Mexican gardeners.
Yeah, exactly.
And all the gardeners are Mexican, don't speak English.
That's
they
right.
can't tell you anything. And if you knock on
Most
somebody...
of them are illegal immigrants.
And you can't knock on anybody's door because they're all these massive sort of security gates.
Yeah, exactly.
That you have to ring a bell. Fascinating place.
It is a fascinating place. Now, another one named here, which might know a little bit more about... is the Kings Point Estate, Great Neck.
Great Neck, yes.
Long Island.
Long Island.
Right.
Long Island, yeah, Great Neck. That's quite a place as well.
Now, there's a place out there for $100 million, and it's...
a snip.
It has a private jetty.
Why do you think people are interested in any of this, by the way?
Well, because
you're fascinated by money and property.
No.
Not everybody is.
People have huge aspirations about, getting somewhere in life, okay?
Some people do.
And how more can you get somewhere in life unless you've got bricks and mortar around you worth hundreds of millions of dollars? Now, the one I love, because my favourite hotel is the Exeter... No, it's not. It's the Essex House. It's the Essex House Hotel on Central Park South.
Yes.
Right next door.
It's not a great hotel, that, by the way.
I think it's great.
No, but it's not the best hotel in New York, for example, never mind the best hotel in the world.
Well, I like it because of the view over the park and that sort of stuff.
Well, yeah,
but we had a party there once,
Well, you did. I wasn't there.
No, you brought Emma along in a pram. That's how long
not.
ago it was.
No, I did not.
You did.
You're talking rubbish.
No, I'm not.
No, your memory is once again playing tricks on you.
Do you know whose party it was?
Whose party?
It was the 40th birthday party of Anne-Marie Finn, the wife of our esteemed colleague and lately departed, sadly.
No.
Philip Finn.
Definitely not true.
No, you did. Anyway,
why would they have had a party in a hotel when they have an apartment?
They didn't. I had the party for her.
Really?
She'd had a party upstate. Remember, if Philip had some kind of place upstate.
No, he had a house upstate.
Yeah, but there was a local place near to him that he hired for her party.
No, you're trying to mix it all up there.
Anyway, the point is, 220...
It's time for a lie down.
220 Central Park South, the penthouse in New York. Yeah. Current going price, $250 million.
Yes.
Right, this 4-storey apartment...
by the way.
Hang on. It could be Manhattan's most expensive condo, beating the $100.5 million spent on the penthouse in 157 last year, okay?
Right, okay.
Now then, how about this? 23,000 square feet.
Yeah.
The apartment stretches over floors 50 to 53 of the 66-floor development.
Very nice. Has it got a swimming pool?
The apartment will have 16 bedrooms.
Ridiculous.
In an apartment?
That's a ridiculous
number of apartments. 17 bathrooms, 5 balconies, and a terrace overlooking Central Park.
Well, that would be lovely.
That's what you pay for.
Yeah, that's what you pay for. But neither you or I will be buying that kind of place because we can't afford it.
Well, I still have ambitions.
Yeah, I can see that, but you've got no chance. Now, we've got loads more coming up, including the Porky Quiz. Brian says this: what if people on the train are reading one of your books, Porky? Do they have a life? They're all fictional stories.
No, they're factual. They're factual, and they would have been imparting into themselves great knowledge.
And Steve says, 100 Years of Solitude, one of the greatest books written and a great metaphor for South American imperialism. Hashtag ignoramus plank.
What?
So he's a guy who has heard of Gabriel Marquez.
Oh, really?
Yes. This is Talk Radio. We are the Two Mics. The Porky Quiz on the Olympics coming up a little bit later on. Got a few tweets to read out. You can tweet us, of course, at the Two Mics. And, of course, you can reach Mr. Parry on at MikeParry8 while I'm away. And while I'm away on holiday, I will not be spending most of my time on Twitter, but I will be probably looking at it from time to time at IROMG. James says, did Porky not talk very recently about putting his precious journals all over the table on the train? Villa Rich says, once again, Mike Parry can't remember an ex-Everton player's name. What a total plank. And what I was going to say...
Sammy.
Sammy who? Sammy Hippier?
No.
Davis Jr.?
No. Sammy Hippier played for Liverpool. I'll remember it in a minute.
I know that. Now, have you also seen this story that a couple of people have tweeted to us, one of them being Justin, where it says 19 BMW i8s ready for the players following last season's triumph. And there's a picture of a whole load of BMW supercar type sports cars.
Yes.
And every single Leicester player has now got one, apparently. That's rather extravagant, isn't it?
Hang on, how many of them?
It says 19, so presumably for the first team squad. They've all got one. There are 19 of them all parked there.
What do they retail at?
I don't know. I'm not a car salesman.
Well, I would say...
I would imagine upwards of 65, 70,000.
I was going to say, maybe 75 grand. And if there were 20 of them at 75 grand, that would be 750, that would be 1.5 million.
Yeah.
Minus
which
one.
Is not very much in this day and age.
1.5 million. So, yeah, but I mean, it's an awful lot of specialist cars to plonk onto one city, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it'll be spot the old BMW supercar, won't it? But it's a very nice car. Is it a two-door version?
It's a two-door. I don't think they do a four-door version.
Oh, well, in that case, that's equivalent.
Why would you ask for a four-door supercar?
No. That's equivalent to my Merc's Fastback, obviously.
Your Fastback Merc?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. By the way,
that's got two doors. They've got two doors.
Yeah, but your car...
Same thing.
Yeah, but your car was redesigned the minute you bought it.
What?
So that the new version of your car has been out ever since yours has suddenly become sort of, obsolete. if you like. Now, the other thing I wanted to remind you of, do you remember a couple of weeks ago...
Hadley Wood. Sorry, just send me the tweet.
Yeah, all right.
Hadley Wood.
Calm down.
The suburb of North
There's a nice
London.
golf course up there.
Yeah, that was the place, yeah.
Is that the place you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you remember, I know this is a long time ago for you, but a couple of weeks back, you were interviewed, or we were both supposed to be interviewed for a piece that another organisation was doing on the closure of Fleet Street.
That's right.
The final, denouement.
Yes.
Because two guys from the Sunday Post were finally leaving their office, which was the last remaining newspaper office on Fleet Street.
Absolutely.
Well, today, apparently, is the day that they've left the building. So,
yes, that's right, the Dundee Courier.
So it's the Dundee Courier, yeah. I thought it was the Sunday Post, wasn't it?
Well, they're the same organisation.
They probably work for everyone.
DC Adams, is it?
Eh?
Is it DC Adams?
No.
What is it?
DC Thompson.
DC Thompson, that's a guy, yeah.
Who's DC Adams?
Well, I don't know.
Detective Constable Adams at your service.
Well,
Who is DC Adams? Where do you get all this? Why are you getting everything wrong today?
No, I'm not getting everything wrong.
I don't know why I'm asking you that question.
What I saw a feature this morning on Victoria Adams.
Victoria Adams.
Who became Victoria Beckham.
Yeah.
The fact that she...
How does that get into your mind as the name of a publishing company?
Well, it sticks because it's DC, if you see what I mean. Like C is next to B, DB, David Beckham, you know what I mean?
It's amazing, actually. If somebody could actually examine the workings of your mind, they could turn it into something very interesting.
Anyway, let me complete the story.
So today is the actual day.
So, can I tell you this?
What?
Every evening at 6 o'clock for the past maybe 50 years, the BBC News has been on BBC One. Is that right?
Eh?
So
what, the news at 6?
News at 6, yeah.
Oh, didn't it not used to be 5?
No.
Are you sure?
No.
It used to be at 10 to 6, I seem to remember.
Do you?
Yeah, I think so.
No, I don't remember that.
I think the 6 o'clock news was the thing that they brought in I don't mean relatively recently, but, within the last
25, 30 years.
20,
Okay,
20
you may be right. You may be right. But anyway, the point is, it's always been followed by News Southeast.
Well, I wouldn't say always.
Or Southeast News or something, or some magazine show called...
Look Northwest or something. Some of those local shows are awful, by the way.
Well, that's what we used to have in Chester.
Look Northwest.
And people like David Davis, would turn up on sort
of...
What's wrong with
him?
Well, nothing. He's a great friend of mine,
Is
actually.
He?
But,
when was the last time you spoke to him?
So, did you know the funny thing is... I was with some friends in Langens, which is, largely dubbed as the footballers' restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
At Green...
What were you doing in there?
Well, I was having lunch at Green Park in London.
What, with some footballers?
No, with some friends from the football industry.
Who?
Friends from the Football Association.
What, from the FA?
Yes, from the FA, yeah.
Who, like Greg Dyke?
Well, I can't go into that,
Really?
I'm sorry. I can't go into that. But anyway, as we were sitting there, and of course, because I'm a favoured guest...
Were you paying?
Yes, I think I was.
I don't believe you.
No, I think I was.
Was this when you were at the FA?
No. This is in the last couple of years.
Oh, okay.
And
why did you invite me?
Oh, because I had better things to do, to be perfectly frank, and I wanted entertaining company.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I went in there and I saw my favourite waiter.
What's his name?
Chep.
Chep?
Chep, yeah.
It's an unusual name.
Yeah, it is an unusual name.
CHEP?
Yeah, that's
What's
right.
it short for?
I don't know. I've never asked him.
Chepstow?
No. But his name's Chep. And
Chep? Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm
sure you haven't got his name wrong?
No, I haven't got his name wrong. And as soon as I walk in and, he gives me the old wink and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
What does that mean?
It means you're getting a great table by the window.
Uh-huh.
So we go over this window table, and me and these important people were dining. And then about 2 hours into our lunch, there's on the window.
Uh-huh.
It's David Davis.
David Davis.
And David Davis was a chap I used to work with at the FA, many moons ago.
And so you were with a load of his mates?
No, they weren't his mates. No,
didn't he work at the FA?
Well, he did, but he'd left a long time ago, and people had overtaken the positions and all that kind of stuff.
Surely he would know some of the people that worked
Well,
after
he
him.
probably would have known them, but anyway, it was very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
So I waved him in, gave him half a glass of wine. And
half a glass of wine?
Well, yeah, that sort of thing, you know what I mean?
Why?
But anyway, the reason... Why were we talking about this?
I've no idea.
Why were we talking about this?
I don't know. You're absolutely raving.
No. We were talking about...
We were talking about the end of Fleet Street.
The end of Fleet Street. So, what I was going to say to you was...
The Strand's at one end.
The Strand's at one end. So anyway, I get a call. Oh, yes, so I said that David Davis was on that show. So what's happening is...
We have to have 3 hours of this.
What's happening is that a huge informative piece involving me, in fact, me talking directly to camera, about the old Fleet Street, will be shown on South East News Tonight on the BBC at 6:30.
Well, why are you giving a plug to another organisation?
I'm not. I'm giving myself a plug.
No, you're not.
I am.
Because the bottom line is, I read the piece that they've put out online, right? And they've quoted loads and loads of people on it. But they haven't quoted you.
I don't believe you.
I think you've probably hit the editing room floor.
I don't believe you.
I should show you the piece.
I want to see it. I want you to read it.
They've quoted all sorts of people.
Like
it's
who?
a very long piece.
Like
very,
who?
very long. I'll tell you when I can find it. I'll have to look it up. But
I'm not sure I believe you.
It's absolutely right. It's absolutely true. You're not in it. I don't think you've made the final cut. They probably decided you were too hideous visage.
I can't accept that.
Look at the state of your face. You look how disappointed you are.
The lady who interviewed me, Roz, lovely lady, she said that was the best interview she'd ever done.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, well, maybe she was lying. I don't think you've made it.
I do not accept this.
He's absolutely crestfallen.
I'm not accepting this.
You're absolutely crestfallen, aren't you?
I'm not accepting this.
Absolutely tremendous. I will find that and I will reveal all to you, and I'll tell you all about the people that they have actually named apart from you.
This is outrageous.
This is, of course, Talk Radio. We are the Two Mics.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
This is Talk Radio. We are the Two Mics. There will, of course, be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. This is the last show for me for a couple of weeks. Mr. Parry, of course, is also going to be off on his trips around and about.
Yep.
You may spot him in various towns in the north of England as he meanders around for his own entertainment, I suppose you might say.
I could be going to Wigan.
Could be a couple of business opportunities for you up there as well, which we'll talk about later. Right now, though, we've got a very important guest. Fri Aug has written a book about Turner, the great painter, and I know that he's one of your favourites, isn't he?
Oh, well, no, he's one of the most mysterious painters that
you don't
we've
like
come
Turner?
Well, John Constable's my favourite painter of all time,
Is
and
he?
I have a place over there in Suffolk, and I love what he did. But Turner was a man of such mystery that I was fascinated to discover a new biography on him by Fri Aug, Turner, The Extraordinary Life and Momentous Times of JMW, and I know we've got Franny coming on in just a second.
She's here.
Exactly. Franny, welcome, and great to have you on the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
And if I said that this book of yours, which is tremendous, is actually sort of free the Turner one, or restore Mr. Turner's reputation as a man, not as a painter, what would you say to that?
Well, I think he's always been a sort of man in the shadows. People have never really known what to make of him because he's so full of contradictions. And I think you just have to embrace that he was a man full of contradictions. And the minute you do that, suddenly you begin to see this man, because like all of us, he's not consistent in his life. He goes through changes. And, perhaps at the very end of his life, he's most inconsistent when he actually sort of assumes a double identity.
Isn't this part of, as well, as we look at these figures from the past now, and you maybe juxtapose them with current sort of celebrities or authors or famous people, and I know now celebrity is all about lots of different things, but was it in that case, in those days, that you expected them to be somehow special and somehow different, whereas now we kind of accept that celebrities are, when famous people are just like everyone else?
I certainly think in the second half of Turner's life, I mean, Turner was born a Georgian and he died a Victorian. So his life spanned this massive change, I think, in society. And I think when he was a Georgian, life was much more tolerant, liberal. People had mistresses. People weren't shocked. The king had a mistress. The king was mad. Lots of people lived with their partners without being married. And then suddenly something changed in the Victorian era, and people became more judgmental. And I think Turner, the old man, suffered the judgment of the Victorians, who did, I think, expect painters to behave with a degree of sort of morality, or to set a standard. And I think that's why they found his double life, that he was unmarried and discovered living in Chelsea with someone. They were sort of shocked by that. But I don't think the Georgians that he grew up with would have given two hoots.
Well, you say that, Franny, but I mean, one of the interesting passages of your book is where you reveal that he inherited a pub in Wapping, which is very well known to Mr. Graham and ourselves. This is what
actually caught your eye.
Yeah,
right?
this is what caught my eye. He inherited a pub called the Ship and Blade Bone.
Yes.
He would go down there at weekends. He was fascinated by the Thames and the sea. He would mix with sailors in drunken revelry, and he was a man with a keen eye.
Sounds a bit like you.
Excuse me, I haven't finished yet. And a man with a keen eye for female flesh, perhaps to mix even with ladies of ill repute in Docklands. Now, this is not very good behaviour.
Well, he was brought up in Covent Garden, and let me tell you, that was certainly a place of ill repute when he was brought up, and, had many services of a particular kind that artists and gentry helped themselves to. I think the thing with Turner was that he was a man who held no airs and graces particularly. He was just fascinated by everybody, and his eye was all encompassing. And I think there are descriptions of him when he's travelling, sleeping in pubs on benches, not giving two hoots, not being fussy about what he eats. And I think he was a bit like that with his company. He loved talking high art. He loved rubbing shoulders with the great and the good.
Yes.
But he also just loved observing the other side of life as well.
See, I think that's rather reassuring, to be honest. And I'd rather actually have a painter who was that way inclined rather than someone who was a little bit sort of stiff upper-lipped and walked around trying to pretend that he was, very, very respectable. In many ways, I have to tell you this, Franny, the two of us are, as you've just described, the difference between Georgians and Victorians, because Parry here is a guy who normally accuses me of having the morals of an alley cat, and he's very Victorian in his views about a lot of things, whereas I find myself having more in common with Mr. Turner.
The interesting thing about Turner was his choice of women. He never settled down with, if you like, a sort of posh girl. They were not for him. All the relationships that we know about seem to be women of what people then would have considered a sort of lower class.
Lower status, I know what you mean.
You'd always be looking for a posh girl, haven't you?
I know what you mean, the alley cat. But I mean, there's one expression here of him, which I find a bit difficult to accept, Franny. It says, despite being one of the most studied of all artists, the man himself has not undergone the same transformation. That is, the image that persists of him is of a squat, shabby, parsimonious, secretive and tetchy misanthrope. Now, my broadcasting partner here would say that perfectly describes me.
It does, actually.
And yet, I'm a man of vivacity.
Well, I think this is the problem Turner had, as an old man, he was a bit shabby and a bit tetchy because, like many old people, but you get to a point where you just don't care anymore. You don't sort of stand on ceremony. You say what you think, and perhaps your habits have sort of formed in a certain way. But what's interesting about Turner is from all his life, he was a small guy. He was short.
Right.
And he clearly had a sense that masked this huge intellect, because even as a little boy, when he was painting and doing amazing, astonishing landscapes, because as a juvenile artist, he was already fabulous, and people could spot this talent. And he would say, when people would say, why don't you do a portrait of yourself or give us an image of yourself? And he'd say, no one will believe such a little chap can make such fine pictures. And I think there was something, he had this, I wouldn't say he had an inferiority complex, because he was very confident as a painter, but I think as physically as a person, he was always very aware that he didn't have this sort of great noble physiognomy or this, he wasn't a tall man. He didn't look like a.
But neither does Bernie Ecclestone, and Bernie Ecclestone's one of the richest men on earth.
Well, what's that? How is that a comparison?
Well, the comparison is that, Napoleon, for instance,
now we got to Napoleon.
Yeah, well, he had the same sort of complex, didn't he? Don't worry what you look like, it's what you do in life.
Absolutely, but I do think that there was a part of Turner that always sort of had this sense that people looked down on him or couldn't perceive the sort of mind within.
Yeah.
But of course, his paintings very quickly revealed that he was of such huge talent.
Yes.
And do you think that his legacy, as far as, his paintings hang in some of the greatest galleries in the world, but is he viewed by those who, I suppose, make up the rules, if you like, as one of the great British artists, or do all of these faults kind of slightly temper that?
No, I think people really understand he's one of our greatest artists. What I do think, though, is I think right now we love his late works, and perhaps we've forgotten his earlier works. And, that's a matter of taste. His late works, which in his own time were really reviled. People hated them. They couldn't really understand them. These great sort of impressionistic, misty canvases that are almost abstract.
Like the crossing of the Alps?
Yes, like that Hannibal in the Alps with that great grey cloud coming down, that big,
exactly.
3/4 of the canvas is this sort of great swoop of grey.
Exactly.
And to a 21st century eye, when we've seen impressionism and abstract painting, we look at that and we can respond to it, and we love it, actually, and we love those misty sunsets. And I think there is a tendency today, even though he's absolutely acknowledged as brilliant, and that was, after all, his most innovative work, we tend to, I think, in the public's eye, he is defined by that late work. And what I would say is there's even more. The first portion of his life, perhaps, and of his work is not as well known by the public. Of course, it's known by all the academics.
Indeed.
And that is worth a second look, because in its own right, that's really interesting as well.
Well, if there was an opportunity to get an original of Turner, of even a drawing or anything like that, is there somewhere you could go and sort of try and find it? If I wanted to buy one, what's the cheapest Turner I could get my hands on?
Some came up for auction in July.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and actually, I didn't see what they eventually went for, but some of his little sketches and watercolours that were for sale were modestly priced. I say this modestly priced for someone who can pull quite a few thousand out of their pockets.
But so for a few thousand, like 10,000?
I don't know what they went for. No, I think it might be a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
But the point being, there are still some of his watercolours in private circulation. Not that many, but there are still some. His work still comes up on the.
My observation on this, Franny, you're an expert and I'm not, is that For instance,
that's the first time you ever admitted to not being an expert on anything.
Take the snowstorm, Hannibal and his army crossing the Alps, OK, very famous painting, all that. But that came out of Turner's head, whereas John Constable would sit, by the side of a river and paint the hay wain as he saw it. Do you see what I mean? And they had quite different perspectives on what art was all about.
Well, yes and no. That's a helpful answer.
I'm very confused by the question, to be honest. I don't know what he's asking you.
I think you're saying, did Turner make it all up? No, he didn't. Yeah. Almost everything he did actually is founded in his observation of the real world. So actually, that painting we're talking about, Hannibal crossing the Alps, he was standing on the steps of Farmley Hall in Yorkshire, looking out at a sort of an escarpment called the Otley Shevin, I think it's called.
Yes.
And he saw a rainstorm, and he said, "That'll be a picture of Hannibal in the Alps." So he was.
But it wasn't at the top of the Alps. That's the problem.
Oh no, but he of course did lots of views of the Alps. So yes, of course, he had imaginative works. He turned the landscape around him.
Like your journalism career, really.
Paintings. Yes, of course he did.
It's a bit like your love life, really. Yeah.
It's not imaginary.
He also did a lot of views. Famously views of the great cathedrals, of all our great views of our mountains, the Welsh mountains.
The Welsh mountains, I know them well.
The Scots Mountains, the Peak District, the Lake District, our rivers, our coasts, all those views of Margate. I mean, everywhere. Turner went everywhere. I play a game with myself quite often, which is when I go somewhere, I say, if I don't know whether Turner had done an image of it, I'll just Google Turner and the name, and 9 times out of 10, somewhere there is a sketch in a
sketch. You see,
he's
great
astonishing.
Stuff.
That's your instinct as an expert. Franny, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well,
thank you.
Very, very kind indeed.
The book is still available in all good bookshops, I presume?
Oh, absolutely. It's only been out, 3 weeks?
Okay.
Right. I don't know.
Brilliant.
Okay. Well,
Thank you very much,
Franny. I think it's brilliant.
Would you please give everybody the name of the book?
The book is Turner, The Extraordinary Life and Momentous Times of J.M.W. Turner by the wonderful Franny Moyle.
But don't read it on the train, of course, otherwise Porky will regard you as a person who is of the lowest possible
It's published by Viking, by the way.
Is it? Okay, thank you very much indeed. That remarkable interview, really, from the point of view of those who never expected us to discuss art on the show, right?
Exactly.
Proves that actually you have an awful lot in common with Turner. All that hanging around down at the pub with women of ill repute.
In Wapping.
In Wapping.
I used to live in Wapping.
Where you used to have a house. I wonder if that pub actually still exists in some form, or whether it's been
something else.
Renamed.
There is no Ship and Blade.
I love the idea that this is a guy who painted stuff that he just thought he imagined in his head. Very similar, as I said, to your journalistic career.
It's a bit harsh, isn't
it? I've also, by the way, I've found this piece about the end of Fleet Street, right? And I can give you, from the top, an entire list of the people that they quote in the story. First of all, they quote the 2 guys who are actually being made redundant, Gavin Sheriff and Darryl Smith, who work actually for the Sunday Post. So maybe that's why they dropped you, because you got it wrong.
What?
It wasn't the Dundee Courier they were working for at all. One of them's going to be freelance, and the other one is going to write his memoirs. Okay? Now, following on from that, they've got lots of pictures of the Daily Express, presses rolling, all that kind of thing. They then quote somebody that you may remember by the name of Robin Esser.
Robin Esser?
Yeah. Robin Esser's Fleet Street career spanned some 60 years, during which time he also became executive managing editor of the Daily Mail. It then goes on to interview somebody called Liz Hodgkinson, you might remember, who says that the alcohol flowed like water. And she talks about working for papers like the Sunday People, the Sun, the Mail. Talks about how basically it was there were 4 women in a room full of 170 men. They then go on further down, more pictures of the Express, the Telegraph, the Cheshire Cheese, stories about Rupert Murdoch, and quite a couple of other people, and that's it. Nothing from you at all.
What?
Nothing from you at all.
Well, they don't.
You've hit the cutting room floor.
No.
Turn you.
No. When they flag these things up, they can't possibly put in every person who's contributed to the show. I'm convinced.
Well, surely if you were at the main part of the show, they'd have quoted you.
Well, you talk about the Cheshire Cheese. I believe that I'll be a big cheese in that particular report tonight.
A big cheese in a local television report.
I reckon I'll be a big cheese.
Your aspiration?
Excuse me. About 5 or 6 million people watch that, don't you? That programme.
Well, I mean,
which is about the sort of audiences I'm used to working to. Okay?
We were both supposed to do it, but you decided you wanted to do it on your own, so you've probably been cursed.
You weren't available. I
could have made myself available,
well, you weren't,
but I decided not to.
Yeah.
Anyway, coming up in the next hour, you will be unavailable for the interview with the Hollywood superstars that I've had a conversation with about the release, of course, of Suicide Squad.
This failed film?
Which is the big summer blockbuster. 4.5 out of 5, I think you'll find people are giving it. This is Talk Radio. I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to the Two Mikes on Talk Radio. It is, of course, the last show before the holidays. We've got another couple of hours to go, of course. We've got some great stuff coming up in this hour, and we'll be talking to a couple of Hollywood legends about their new movie, Suicide Squad, which, of course, Porky hasn't seen, but we'll be asking him about it. And later on, it's the Porky Quiz as well on the Olympics. So the Olympics actually is only kind of moments away. There's definitely a sort of an air of excitement about the Olympics, don't you think?
Is there?
Do you not think so?
What?
Andy Murray's carrying the flag.
Oh, well, I think that's fantastic. I saw him.
You're in favour of that, are you?
I saw him and Princess Anne lining up there to represent our great country.
He nearly
with the flag.
impaled her on it, didn't he?
Well, it was suggested he needs some flag-holding lessons.
Yes, right.
So I suppose what you could say is, in my view, the bore of the handle of a flag when you're carrying it,
is that what you call it?
The bore,
Are you sure?
That's the circumference.
Have you ever carried a flag?
No, but I'm going to say it would be about the same circumference as a tennis racket, wouldn't it?
I would
so you should be pretty used to
yeah, but it's a lot
holding,
bigger than a tennis racket, obviously.
Yeah. It's got a lot more weight at the end of it, obviously, because it's got a flag on it and not just a bit of catgut, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would say that he should be used to... I mean, think of Andy Murray playing a two-handed backhand return.
Yeah.
That's the grip he needs on the flag.
That's true. But,
right?
I mean, obviously, because of his size, he will need to sort of use slightly different muscles in
Indeed,
his arms to
indeed.
ensure that he doesn't
I hope all these
ne'er-do-gooders
who, have been...
the ones who are trying to extinguish the Olympic flame.
No, them throwing the water on, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? But the ne'er-do-gooders who've been saying over the years, Andy Murray, is he a true Brit or is he just a bitter Scotsman and all that? Of course he's a true Brit.
I don't know why you keep bringing this up.
He's the proudest...
I don't know why you keep bringing it up.
He's the proudest flag carrier I've seen leading a delegation of Brits at the opening ceremony of an Olympic Games.
Well, he's the second Scotsman in a row to do it, because Chris Hoy did it in London.
Of course he did.
So now we've got two Scotsmen who have actually carried the Team GB flag.
Brilliant.
You've got no issue with that?
No, not whatsoever.
Why are you bringing it up then?
They're British. Well, what I'm saying is, I think that if ever there was any doubt about his commitment to the country called Great Britain,
the Union,
it is now it is now extinguished altogether.
Okay, here's one from Dylan who says, I think Porky's smitten with the author of that Turner book. He's never been so quiet when having a guest on. And he then adds, yesterday it was the Sweeney, today Turner.
Exactly.
Porky's vacuum-like brain never fails to amaze.
Well, exactly. That's absolutely right. I mean, I have such a very wide range of knowledge in all sorts of subjects. As you quite rightly say, popular commercial TV, football, sports, Olympics, right the way through to Turner paintings, John Constable, the Haywain. Yeah. It's all there.
Will you be watching the Olympics then much? On your holidays?
Not a lot of it.
Why not?
I find athletics mostly quite boring.
Do you?
Yes.
Why?
And I particularly find things like the hammer throwing.
You'll surely watch old Usain Bolt trying to break another record, right?
Yes, I will, because he's a superstar and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I just don't know how people sit down and watch the heats in things like the 400 metres. Why would you want to do that?
Well, because it can be. I mean, one of the things that is very exciting is the racing. I mean, the track and field. Yeah, you can say some of the stuff in the field, but the heats, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, so you'd watch the heats,
especially if there's people from this country involved. Yeah, surely you want to get involved in that.
The heats in the 800 metres. Would you watch
why not?
That?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that takes 800 metres is like, how many circuits is that? That's 2.
Well, it depends on the length of the circuit, doesn't it?
Well, the circuit's usually 400 metres.
It's a bit like what you said about...
it's 2.
Well, I'm not sure that.
It is, yeah, the circuit's 400 metres.
Are you saying a track is only 400 metres long?
Yes.
I don't think that's right.
No, of course it is, you idiot. That's why the 400 metres is one circumference of the track.
Are you sure?
Of course I'm sure.
It depends on the track, doesn't it?
What?
I think it depends on the track.
All tracks are standard. They have to be.
I don't think they are. Well, remember we had this conversation about the Grand Prix, and you said it was amazing, and some Grand Prix, they had more laps than others because the tracks are shorter.
Well, I mean, what a bizarre conversation. Have you ever seen anybody win the 400 metres at the Olympics who didn't run one circuit of the track?
I can't remember. I haven't watched every single Olympics. So I don't know.
Well, in that case, you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I'm not saying I'm an expert.
You're talking to a man here who was the Olympic correspondent at the Atlanta Olympics in Georgia.
For who?
1996.
For who?
I was head of a team of 36 as executive editor of the Press Association.
Oh, so you weren't actually doing anything?
Of course I was. I was organising everything and getting it all straight.
Really?
Yeah.
How many hours of work did you do in any given day?
At least 14 a day.
14 a day?
Yes, at least. It was very, very hectic work.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's one from Harry who says, the reason the locals are protesting in Rio is largely due to many teachers and municipal workers not having been paid for months.
Yeah, well, it's true.
And that's why they're moaning and groaning about it.
Apparently there's a big demonstration today at Heathrow. That's all you need, isn't it, in holiday season?
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
This is the Black Lives Matter people, aren't they?
Well, of course, Black Lives Matter, but
No, but that's the organisation. It's the English version of the American system.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, I never worked out how inconveniencing millions of people for your own cause is in any way helpful to the progress of society.
Well, that's why people have demonstrations. Because they want to have demonstrations to disrupt you so that you will now remember the name of the organisation.
Well, maybe.
Well, maybe. No, that doesn't always work with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, as far as the scarf-wearing video that we put out a little bit earlier, a lot of people are saying that they think they like the way that I put the scarf on.
Yes, did they?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, why did you try to wind me up by bringing a Liverpool scarf?
It was the only scarf I could find.
Oh, the only scarf you could find. So you're not really a Liverpool fan then?
Well, it's not my Liverpool scarf. No, I don't have a Liverpool scarf. Why would I have a Liverpool scarf?
I thought you said as a teenager you were a Liverpool fan. I thought you told me you went to Anfield.
That's not true. As a teenager, my sister was a Liverpool fan.
Right.
And so I used to go to Anfield with her.
Oh, I see.
But I was never a Liverpool fan.
No,
I used to like going to the games.
But you know, because I told you earlier, today was the day I got my new season ticket for next season for Eton.
Yes. Yeah. It's in the hospitality region, isn't it?
Well,
it says hospitality area on it.
Yes, well, that's where the box that I'm in is located. Yeah, so of course.
And how much does that set you back?
Well, that's not an issue. It's not an issue.
It's a question.
Well, I'm not sure it's a relevant question. I think
people would like to know, because you call yourself the man of the people.
Yes.
But you will be in a very expensive section of the place.
I regard any Everton fan who has paid whatever the basic price for a season ticket is in any part of the stadium as an equal or probably a superior to me.
Really?
The only reason that I have bought a seat in the part of the stadium that I'm going to is for convenience to enter and exit the stadium.
Why?
Because I live 200 miles away and sometimes I have to rush out to get the last train home.
Well, is that the only place there's an exit?
No, but it makes the progress of your passage around the stadium easier.
So how much did it cost you?
Well, I think that's irrelevant.
Just give us a ballpark figure.
No, it cost me
more than $2,000. I bet
it cost me as much emotionally as it has cost anybody else buying an Everton season ticket of any price.
You do know that our producer today's an Everton fan, don't you?
Indeed, I do.
Yeah, are you going to take him up there as a reward for doing the show with us? Can you take a guest?
Oh yes, I can take as many guests as I want.
Can you?
Yes, I can.
Well, where do they sit?
They sit in the seats that I arrange for them.
Have you got a box or something?
Well, I'm in a pretty exclusive sort of box, if you see what I mean.
So you'll be sitting there mostly on your own?
No.
Because you won't be taking people, will you?
Well, it depends. I mean,
Well, for example, when you go to the first game,
yes,
which is this weekend or next weekend, right?
It's a week tomorrow.
A week tomorrow, yes. Will you be taking anyone?
No, not on that occasion. I won't because I have
business to do. So you'll be sitting in a big box on your own?
No, I won't. No,
with a big bag of chips?
No. Oh, no. You get a 4-course meal before the game.
A 4-course meal?
Yes.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Right.
At a sit-down
table. Why don't you
table.
take someone with you?
Well, because on this occasion...
You haven't got any friends, have you?
I have got friends, but I'm rather busy and I have a meeting immediately after the game.
He'd like to go.
No, he's too tall.
Too tall?
Yeah. He wouldn't fit in my...
What, you mean you've got a specially small circular box which has been custom made for your height?
Not at all. But,
and how far are you from the chairman's area?
Very close.
Really?
Yes.
Is that wise?
Well, I don't know. I mean... Sometimes I get the impression he's trying to blank me. I don't know why, but these things happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know why we're talking about that, because what we should be talking about...
Well, we just want to try and find out how much money you spent on your season ticket.
Well, I think that's absolutely irrelevant, to be honest. As for your scarf thing, that came from Northamptonshire County Council.
Yeah.
And Ms. Julia Hartley-Brewer touched on it in our last show.
Yes.
What a pathetic waste of money.
Well, it does seem a bit daft, doesn't it?
Of course it does.
People don't need to be taught how to put scarves on, really.
No, that's right, yeah.
Have you got many scarves in your scarf collection?
Yes,
I don't mean
have.
football scarves,
No,
I mean non-football scarves.
Well, first of all, I've got a very big collection of football scarves from games that I've been to over the years, like World Cup finals and that kind of stuff.
Right.
You know, when you get these scarves which got both teams' names on them.
No, have you got a load of those?
Yeah, I've got a load
People
of
don't like those.
Well, they're not for supporting, they're for actually, they're commemorative, aren't they?
You're hoping they might be worth some money, right?
Eh?
You're hoping they might be worth some money.
No, I think it's great to mark the occasion. And of course, I've got a collection of Everton scarves over the years.
Yeah. I'm asking about your non-footballing scarves.
Yes, I've got some very nice scarves. Tartan. Blue.
What
blue
sort of
tartan. Blue tartan.
Well, blue's not a tartan.
Well, this is a blue tartan check.
Blue tartan.
Blue tartan check.
Well, is it a McDonald?
What?
Is it a McDonald? The tartans are named after the names of the clans, right?
Yeah.
You don't go, what clan are you? I'm the Blue Clan.
No, well, I don't know.
Well, what is it?
It's a blue check scarf, and it's Scottish.
Scottish?
Like Scottish looks like.
Where'd you buy that? I'll buy you a proper tartan. In fact, you know what I should buy you?
Yeah.
I should buy you a Graham tartan scarf when we're in Edinburgh.
And what colour is that?
It's a bit like the Black Watch. It's quite dark. It's got a sort of a very light blue streak going through it, and a little bit of green.
My favourite scarf is cashmere. It's a black cashmere scarf.
Really?
Well, it's dark blue, actually. Dark blue
Dark
cashmere.
blue.
And it is so soft to the skin. It's beautiful.
Where'd you get that?
My sister gave it me as a present last Christmas.
Did she?
And it's wonderful.
Where's it from?
Well, it's from Kashmir, of course, you idiot.
Kashmir?
Yeah.
What, a cashmere scarf from Kashmir?
Yes, that's right.
I mean, where did she buy it?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what she bought. She bought it at a shop that sells cashmere scarves. I mean, it's a stupid question.
Yeah, well, not really. I thought it might be from Harrods or something.
Listen.
We're out of time now.
Yeah, well, I want to tell you something about...
We haven't got any time.
Well, I'll tell you in a minute about looking at the world through a lens.
A lens?
A lens.
What, you mean a camera?
Well, with the advent of the phone camera and all this kind of stuff, so many people now live their lives looking through a lens.
Do they?
Yeah, and it's amazing how that can shape your psychology.
Really?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Very thoughtful today.
Yes.
You sure you haven't taken the medication in the wrong order?
9.
This is Talk Radio.
The sun goes down like a bad dream. You end up tight, got a lot of steam.
Now, as I explained to you a little bit earlier on, unfortunately,
Yes.
due to what can only be described as creative differences, you were not selected to get yourself involved in the Suicide Squad
Oh, I didn't want to do it.
feature.
I didn't want to do it.
You didn't want to do it?
No,
Why?
well, because I felt that I hadn't actually been able to see the film, and therefore...
I didn't bother you the last time.
And therefore, I'm never going to try and pretend to the artistes who make these great films that I have been aware of their acting prowess.
Right, because you did that before, didn't you, with Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell? It didn't work out too well.
No.
And they thought you were a bit of a numpty.
No.
It has to be said. Anyway, so a little bit earlier on, because these things are timed with perfection involved, I spoke to Jai Courtney, I should say, who plays Captain Boomerang, and Joel Kinnaman, who plays Colonel Rick Flagg in the new summer blockbuster, which is Suicide Squad. Do you want to hear how it went?
Yes, please.
Here it is. Of course, we're talking about Suicide Squad, the big summer movie. It's here, it's coming out, everybody loves it, and I'm going to now talk to two of the big stars of the film, Joel Kinnaman and Jai Courtney. Guys, a very good afternoon to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you.
So, I'm talking to you from what can only be described as a pod, somewhere in the middle of Podland. So where are you?
We are...
in London.
You're in London. Well, welcome.
We're in London somewhere. Thank you.
Welcome. Now,
London town.
This film is like, I don't know, a cross between a Marvel comic film, one of those old sort of RoboCop movies, Sylvester Stallone kind of a bit thrown in there.
Why the old one? Why the old one? Why you got to be like that?
I don't mean the old RoboCop, I mean the old Sylvester Stallone stuff, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that one where they went to the planet and they walked around and their feet were stuck to the ground and that one?
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
That's the one I'm thinking about. That's the one I'm thinking about.
Mike.
But it's an unusual film, right? Because when I before I saw anything to do with it, I thought, this is a great idea about these guys who are, the world's worst villains. But I guess I didn't expect the world's worst villains to look quite the way they do.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting.
No, they got some. They got some swag.
They got a little treatment. Yeah.
Yeah, they have. I mean, there's some serious makeup going on there, right?
Indeed, yeah. None more serious than that worn by Adewale, who plays Killer Croc. He, I think, had to endure about 5 hours of makeup in the morning and 2 hours to take it off to get into full Croc garb. There's no CG with his costume, so
really?
It's full prosthetics head to toe. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. And Joel, you play Colonel Rick Flagg, who's kind of the guy in charge of everything, the field leader of the Suicide Squad. Tell us a bit about what your job is.
Well, I work under this very bad lady called Amanda Watt, and she's the one that came up with this idea. She's in charge of some secret branch of a secret part of the secret agency.
Very secret.
Somewhere. It's very, very secret.
There's a lot of secrets.
So secret.
And this takes place in the DC universe. It comes out after it's what's happening after Batman versus Superman. And they're faced with this idea and this thought of what happens if the next Superman is not a good guy,
right?
Or what if he turns against us? How are we going to defend ourselves? So she comes up with this idea of finding these meta-human supervillains, and she comes up with a way to force them to do her bidding.
Right, and is it to force them to do good? To do good.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Or do what she wants.
Exactly.
And now if that's good or not, that's,
Okay, and Jai, you're Captain Boomerang. What's his story?
That's right. Captain Boomerang, well, he's an Aussie, as you might have guessed.
Captain of what?
And he's a bit of a roughneck, bit of a liability.
Right.
Not exactly a team player, but look, he finds his place in the squad, and he sort of raises the general level of stupidity, right. I think, in a healthy way.
And Jai Courtney, he raised the level of nudity on set.
Oh, does he?
About 100%. Yeah.
Oh, is that right? Well, of course. I mean, there are lots of people who are saying that there's quite a few sort of shall we say interesting shots of Margot Robbie at various points.
Yeah, but that's not compared to Jai, who just does not like clothes at all.
Is he like the Kate Winslet of the film? Just likes taking his clothes off?
He's more like the Orlando Bloom.
Okay. Okay, I get it. So, I mean, without giving too much away, do you fight a whole bunch of different people, or is it one kind of evil that you're going after?
Well, it's a bit of both, man. I mean, it's basically something's taken place which launches. It creates the desire to launch Task Force X, mm-hmm. and they are put to work. Essentially, I mean, it's kind of tricky. I don't want to drop any spoilers.
It's hard to.
Joel is the one that usually drops the spoilers.
I like.
Well, it's out today.
Story,
right?
I like to tell it.
It is out today, but we should let people go and see it before Joel tells them how it ends.
Right.
He just might.
A good ending.
Yeah, you should cut his mic now. Joel's nickname is spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, we usually have a siren for that when we have a guy that gives away the ending of TV series and things like that. But so, I mean, how long did it? I mean, it looks like you were saying that there's a lot of prosthetic work in there as well, but there's a lot of pretty amazing special effects as well.
Pretty incredible special effects. Yeah, no, indeed. The special effects department really. The VisFX, they did an incredible job, and that's one of the most exciting things about seeing a film like this really come together at the end, is because, I mean, we shot on practical sets for the most part. There wasn't a lot of green screen, but some of these amazing the landscapes and stuff.
Yeah, you don't like you only know like a third of the film,
right?
What you were in, but actually this one does differ from a lot of these big movies because. A lot of the stunts were actually practical stunts.
Right,
we have the same stunt team that did the new Mad Max movie that came out, and there's been sort of a movement back to more traditional stunts where you have practical. And I think there was a while when all of a sudden everything was in CG, and then when you see it, you don't really feel it the same way. It doesn't, even though it's good, it doesn't feel real.
It doesn't have the same energy in the camera.
Exactly.
What I've seen, it looks far more realistic than, say, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. I mean, there's a couple of great cars in it for a start.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. No, David creates a world. David Ayer, our director, creates a world that is grounded. You know what I mean? He needs that world to be grounded in reality and find a truth, find an honesty and an authenticity. And it doesn't matter how fantastical the world around these characters can be. At the center of it, it's really about them and about their relationships. And I think David, wouldn't have made this movie unless he sort of found a way to unlock the truth within that.
And you got, of course, the world's most versatile actor, Will Smith, as well, right?
Yeah.
What an amazing guy he is. I mean, this guy could do anything, can't he?
Yeah, he's phenomenal. A phenomenal guy, too. Just always a source of inspiration and good mood. And, he brings an energy to every situation he is in that I've never seen anything like it in any other person. And it's always a very strong, generous energy around him. So, for a big cast like this, when you have the biggest star leading the way in terms of both how professional he is. If he's a minute late, you'll see him running across the set to be on time,
right?
And that just really sets the tone. So everybody wants to follow that example.
Right,
exactly.
And so is the next kind of installment of Suicide Squad, which is probably not the question you want me to ask you right now, but is that going to be maybe Suicide Squad against Superman turned bad or something?
Who knows? I mean, I guess the potential is there to do anything within these, when you get these sort of huge properties here now, and the sort of cross-contamination, with different characters and stuff. As people know, Batman may make an appearance in Suicide Squad, and it's
he's in the trailer.
Yeah,
so.
it's possible kind of do anything, really. So who knows, man? It'd be awesome. Be awesome to see us all face off against the Justice League or something in a couple of films' time.
Tremendous. Well, listen, guys, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. Joel Kinnaman and Jai Courtney. It's Suicide Squad. It's out today. This is Talk Radio. So, what did you make of that, then?
Yeah, I thought it was all very interesting. I thought your investigation into the prosthetics of the way it all went.
There are some incredible masks and things that they're wearing. Imagine having to wear a mask for 5 hours every day. Maybe you should try it. Could have to be an improvement.
What a very original thing to say.
Well, you know.
About my visage. I wasn't going to say something to you like that in case the audience of millions thought I was making a corny reference to something that's obvious. Yeah. Now, what I would say is that this has had mixed reviews, this film, Suicide Squad, but...
Well, you say that, but I mean, all the reviews I've seen have been very good.
Well, Kate Muir, who is the film reviewer for The Times, The Thunderer, one of the world's most famous newspapers, she says supervillains join the CIA and the result is silly, mocking, but great fun. And she gives it 4 stars out of 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's hardly mixed then, is it?
Well, no, but I mean, I've seen some others who are chewing quite so good. You say that our great pal Brian Viner.
Brian Viner said it's fantastic. He said it's much better than Batman versus Superman, which a lot of people thought was a little bit kind of, shall we say, pompous.
What's the basic plot here then?
Well, the basic plot is that these are the world's worst villains, right?
Right.
But they're not just what you would call human villains because they're from DC Comics, and these are the guys, you know, that brought you all the superhero types, right? So you've got people who have got superpowers.
Yes.
And some of them don't look very human.
Right.
And so what they do then is they're hired by this very, very secret organisation, as the guys were explaining. And they go off and fight the evildoers.
I see.
And basically, it's a sort of a shoot 'em up, full of lots and lots of great special effects.
Excellent.
And it's. I mean, my kids would probably love it. I would imagine.
And you enjoyed it?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Bits of it that I saw.
Yes.
Because I wasn't allowed to see every single bit.
No,
of
well, it's only released today.
It's only released today, but it's out today. I'm sure a lot of people will go and see it, and there's adverts for it everywhere.
Indeed.
So as ever, we are on the cutting edge of whatever entertainment is out there.
Ahead of the race, pal.
Yeah. So if you don't manage to lock yourself into your darkened room and watch Porky tonight on his, the last days of Fleet Street to see whether he actually made the
fantastic programme, by the way, 6:30 on a channel I can't name.
No, don't name the channel because it's a rival. Because obviously you'd be listening to Talk Sport otherwise, or Talk Radio. But in the end, if you don't do that, you can go and watch the movie. Which
well, I think what it is, Mike, is that the Revolver was actually a watershed for the Beatles. They stopped being a pop group and they started being musicians, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And the true genius of the writing powers of Lennon and McCartney and George Harrison and the contribution of Ringo Starr seemed to come out in that particular LP Revolver.
Well, if you look down the track list, I mean, there's not very many songs on there that you wouldn't instantly know. But I found one because it goes A Taxman, which is brilliant, right?
Yes.
George Harrison.
Yes.
Eleanor Rigby, I'm Only Sleeping, which is terrific. Loved You Too, which I think I know. Here, There and Everywhere, which is beautiful.
Here,
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to have you sing in every single track.
Everywhere.
Yellow Submarine.
Yeah.
She Said, She Said.
Yes.
Was that the first song on an album that Ringo Starr had done as well? Yellow Submarine, I think it was, wasn't it? Because Abbey Road was Octopus's Garden.
Abbey Road was Octopus's Garden.
Which was later.
The Yellow Submarine was just sung by Ringo. And
but he wrote it, didn't he?
No, he didn't.
You said he didn't write it?
No, he didn't.
It says here he did.
I don't believe he did. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I tell you he did. Do you know why he did?
Yeah, he did do it.
No, I know this now.
You just said he didn't.
No, he did.
Well, which is it?
He was
You're supposed to be a Beatles expert.
He was on holiday.
Was he?
In somewhere like Greece or something like that. And he was in one of these little sort of fishing villages, and he was talking to a fisherman. And he was just talking about, how lovely it was there and all that kind of stuff. How's the water today? And the fisherman got knocked on over and he said, octopuses create their own gardens underwater. And Ringo thought he was joking.
Right.
But then the fisherman took him out into, 6 or 7 inches of water or something like that. And they're paddling round. And he said, now, don't disturb them, but look. And octopuses do make gardens underwater.
Right.
And you're absolutely
I thought you were
right.
going to tell me a story about Yellow Submarine.
Hang on, this is Octopus's Garden I'm talking about.
We're talking about Yellow Submarine.
He didn't write Yellow Submarine.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
You just said he did.
No, I got confused, sorry, with Octopus's Garden. Sorry about that, yeah. No.
Well, he definitely wrote Yellow Submarine.
I'd like to be... Under
We're
the
not
sea.
talking about Abbey Road.
Oh, no, that's Octopus's Garden. Hang on. We all live in Yellow Submarine.
No, all right.
That was written...
The heat suddenly got to you.
No, that was written by Lennon and McCartney.
No.
It was.
According to this I'm looking at, it's a track list with the names of the people that wrote the songs.
No,
and it's written by Ringo Starr.
No, it says lead vocal.
Yeah.
It says lead vocal,
all right,
honestly.
here we go.
Honestly,
Good Day, Sunshine.
Yeah, Good Day, Sunshine.
We know that one.
Good Day, Sunshine.
And Your Bird Can Sing. I don't want you to do all of these.
Yeah,
For
okay.
No One, I'm not sure about.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I know that one. And Dr. Roberts is a great song, isn't it?
Dr. Roberts about the...
About Dr. Roberts.
It was also about the drugs that they'd started to take. Dr. Robert
I want to tell you, I got to get you into my life. Great, and Tomorrow Never Knows. So a fantastic album. Have you got it, by the way?
Life. Yes, of course I have.
Because I thought you only had the Beatles' greatest hits.
I got the full version 2 years ago at Christmas.
What?
Bought for me by my sister.
The full version of what?
Of all the Beatles albums in one.
Oh, right.
Remastered.
Really?
Okay.
What, CDs?
Yeah.
Well, there must be loads of them.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, I've got them all, including things like Yellow Submarine, including ones like Your Mother Should Know and all that kind of stuff.
Starr.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't written by Ringo Starr. It was written by Lennon McCartney.
Right, okay.
Now, what I was going to say to you
I was going to say that's enough about the Beatles now.
No, hang on.
I'm sick of the Beatles.
No.
You have actually turned me off the Beatles.
No.
Because you do nothing but refer to them all the time.
What is unique about Eleanor Rigby? And I've told you this before.
I don't know.
What is unique about Eleanor Rigby?
I obviously didn't retain it.
You didn't retain it. What is unique is that not one single member of the group called the Beatles plays one single note on Eleanor Rigby.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney wrote it.
Yeah.
And he wrote it because of the headstone he saw in a cemetery in Liverpool when he was younger.
Yeah.
And he wrote the words, and then he started strumming on the guitar. And as soon as he took it into the studio, George Martin said, "That's brilliant. I've got an idea here."
Right.
And he then hired a 24-piece string band with...
which is what we just heard.
Which is what we just heard, with violins and violas and... cellos, double basses, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And he said, "We don't need you. Go home, boys," and all that. And all the music on Eleanor Rigby was from an orchestra. Yeah. The Beatles didn't play a single note.
It works terribly well, though, doesn't it?
It works brilliantly well. I mean, it's fantastic. And also the imagery of, Father Mackenzie, wiping the soil from the hands at the side of the grave and all that kind of stuff. It's just beautiful.
It is a lovely song, I have to say.
But what I'm saying is, after that, was the next one Sgt. Pepper's? It must have been, I suppose.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and Sgt. Pepper's was basically Lennon and McCartney, who both lived in North London, very near to where you were brought up.
St John's Wood.
St John's Wood.
Yeah.
And they used to go around to each other's house.
I told you that story of how I saw them once when I was going to school, didn't I?
No.
When we were driving down, do you know where Lord's cricket ground is?
Yeah, of course I do, yeah.
And they had, just down from Abbey Road Studios.
Yes.
If you continue down the road.
Yes.
Which becomes Lisson Grove. I'm not sure what it is in the next block. But on the sort of Lord's block, that was where they had a house. And it was sort of the headquarters of Apple as well.
Yes.
And we used to go to school that way every morning. My mother was driving the car. We were sitting in the back. Yeah. And I must have been, 6 or 7 or something like that. And suddenly the doors opened and it's all very high walls.
Yeah,
and
high wooden doors.
And high wooden doors. And the two high wooden doors opened.
Yes.
And this white Rolls Royce suddenly started coming out.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And we were sitting in a traffic jam, so it couldn't go anywhere,
Right.
But it was one of those old, long-bonneted silver Phantoms or something like that.
Yeah.
And as it
Coachwork,
as it pulled out into the street, you could see Lennon and McCartney sitting in the back of it.
My God, that's incredible.
I mean, even as I remember it now, it gives me slight chills.
Exactly.
It was amazing because we were only kids, but we still went, "Oh, look, there's Paul McCartney and John Lennon."
And that was the start of their hippie era, of course.
Yeah, they both started. Lennon was wearing the white suit,
exactly,
and the long hair.
And McCartney developed a beard and a tash and all that kind of stuff. That's amazing.
That was incredible.
That is amazing. You never told me that before.
Why not? I must have.
That's so exciting.
You must have just forgotten.
Because what happened was when they did Sgt. Pepper's, they actually conspired against the other two members of the group because they knew that they were great songwriters. Yeah. George Harrison wanted to be a songwriter, and of course he did get songs onto Sgt. Pepper's, although one of them was Within You, Without You.
And he got quite a lot of vocals onto this
Revolver
album.
Of course he did. Yeah, of course he did. But the point is that they would meet, for a couple of hours in the evening, because they're like most pop stars, they only started work at 7 or 8 o'clock at night and worked through the night. And by the time they got to Abbey Road Studios, they said to the other two, "Right, let's see what we've got. We've got a few ideas," but they'd already written the songs around at Paul McCartney's house on a piano. Yeah. And so it was all kind of done,
Yeah. Well, they could have, from that house in St John's Wood, they could have literally walked to Abbey Road Studios. So, not that they probably did, but
sure.
Fascinating. Yeah. Now, I just want to ask you one question, right? If you were running a bank, how would you manage to lose £2 billion? The Royal Bank of Scotland has reported a £2 billion loss for the first half of the year. Yeah. It's not even the whole year. How would you manage that?
I thought their losses in the past were much, much bigger than that.
Well, yeah, but
when we had the financial crisis and they had the run on Northern Rock and everybody thought the whole banking industry was going to collapse after Lehman Brothers went bust in America, I thought they'd lost many billions more than that. So it doesn't come as any surprise to me. I mean, look...
The bank's share price has fallen 6%. Bad news for your portfolio.
Well, it certainly is. It's bad news if you've got ISAs and you rely on the health of the stock market to keep your ISA value buoyant. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that nothing surprises me about the banking industry anymore, but you're quite right. How can you borrow money off people who deposit huge funds into your bank and then turn it into a loss. I don't get it.
I know. Absolutely staggering. Yeah. But we will be talking some more about that. Plus, we're going to be talking about holiday photos and what they say about your personality. Because I know you haven't done very many holiday photos recently because you haven't had one for 20 years.
No.
But I've unearthed one of your old holiday photos and I've sent it to somebody to analyse to find out precisely what's going on in that tiny brain of yours.
Okay.
This is Talk Radio. This is Talk Radio. We are the two mics. Of course, coming up in the next hour, it's the Porky Quiz on the Olympics, which is going to be a very, very exciting quiz indeed, because Porky claims that he's an expert on it. Not only that, but he was actually the Olympics correspondent.
I was.
Or the editor-in-chief of the Olympics, as you call it, in Atlanta. What year
Excuse me, Olympics coordinator, Atlanta, 1996, for the world's biggest news agency.
Have you got like a tour jacket?
Probably,
like,
yeah.
Used to walk around,
I've got I think I've got a bag.
PA staff.
No, I've got a bag which says Atlanta Olympics 1996.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you would never class that as a holiday because whenever you go abroad, you're inevitably either on a freebie or you're working in some way, shape or form or writing a travel piece in order to sort of, sort out precisely how you can pay for nothing.
You mean a facility trip?
A facility trip, exactly right.
Yeah,
we're going to talk now to Honey Lancaster James, okay?
Excellent.
Who's going to be telling us about photos that you take on holiday and what they say about you. Because it's interesting that you can actually tell quite a lot from the kind of holiday snaps that people take. Now,
you're bladderated in
well,
most
that's not
of them.
true. No, I take very artistic holiday pictures, right?
Yeah.
I like to take pictures of scenes, and you like to take pictures or have pictures taken of yourself. And so I've gone back through the archives, right, of the two mics, and I've found the picture of you and your former girlfriend Trudy, who you cruelly dumped shortly after this holiday.
What?
Because you decided that she didn't want to move with you to some part of your next career, right? So you just dumped her, even though she was in love with you. Is that not right?
Well, look. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, it was.
One had a career plan and, one had to make sacrifices.
Yeah, indeed.
Simple as
well,
that.
let's talk to Honey and find out what she makes of it, because we sent these pictures over to her earlier. Honey, very good afternoon to you.
Hello, how are you doing?
Very well indeed. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a holiday time, obviously, not just for us, for many people. I'm off on holiday tomorrow for a couple of weeks. Porky, my partner here is not really going on holiday because he doesn't like holidays, he tells me. But I managed to unearth a picture of him with his former girlfriend Trudy, and I managed to, I think, send it over to you. So could you tell us what you think of that and what you can deduce from it?
Well, funnily enough, the first thing I noticed was the age of the photo, and it did make me think, how long is it since this guy's been on holiday? So now you've kind of filled that in. How old is that photo, Porky?
That photo is 40 years old.
Blimey.
40 years old, okay. Yes. Is that from your last holiday? Please tell me you've had a holiday since then.
I had a holiday. My last holiday was actually 35 years ago. So I had one in my sort of late 20s.
And where was this picture taken?
Or mid-20s. That was taken in Cornwall at St Ives.
Cornwall.
And the other thing is, Honey, if I'd have been wise and bought a little cottage we stayed in down St Ives in those days, which was on sale for £10,000, it would now be worth £1 million.
Nice. Well,
See, this is why. This is why he hasn't. This is why he hasn't.
Important.
I'm sorry.
You know that they're really important for your health and well-being to have a break.
Holidays? No, I think holidays are terribly stressful. I think when I travel abroad, if I go to somewhere that's like a holiday destination, but I'm actually working, I'm covering some sporting event or something, I see all these families with their little children stressed out to madness because they can't, get the right luggage rack in the plane, they can't get the child strapped in. When they get there, there's no transport for them and all that. Holidays can drive you mad.
They can do if you're trying to sort of try and pack too much in, or you've got very high expectations about how wonderful the whole thing has to be. It certainly can become a stress rather than a pleasure. But nevertheless, it is important to take breaks. Now, one person's holiday might not be the next person's holiday, so your idea of a holiday might be completely different to someone else's.
Yes.
It may be, there's quite a common trend now of people having these staycations, where you basically stay at home and sort of do a bit of gardening and just generally put your feet up. But it is really important on an annual basis, or even more often if you can, to take these breaks and to have a holiday to sort of refresh and renew yourself. Otherwise, you can suffer from the effects of stress. And
isn't it also, Honey, a little bit about just changing the your surroundings, to some extent, whether it's a beach holiday or whether it's a hill walking holiday or anything, just going somewhere different.
Absolutely. I mean, that old adage, change is as good as the rest.
Yes.
And absolutely, it's true. Sometimes we just need a break from our current environment or the current, routine.
Yeah, I need a break from him, actually. This is the thing I'm looking forward to the most. We've been working non-stop for a month,
No,
right?
but I can
Literally
accept that.
7 days a week.
I can accept that.
I couldn't do that.
I accept that. But, honey, let me tell you this. If you imposed a holiday upon me, that would stress me out because I don't like sunshine. I can't lie on a sofa bed or whatever they're called around a swimming pool.
Sun lounger
around a swimming pool.
But that suggests you've got a very definite idea of what a holiday involves. Not all holidays involve sunshine and sun loungers. I mean, I'm not that kind of person either. Personally, I like to kind of go and do a bit of sightseeing or go to museums and see a bit of culture. But for someone else, it might simply be reading a book in the garden for a couple of days.
He doesn't like reading books. He doesn't like culture.
Well, no, I'll tell you, honey, quite honestly, my idea of a holiday is to be able to go somewhere and get completely drunk and bladderated.
But that's what you do when you're not on holiday.
Hang on, for about 3 days without thinking, but I've got to straighten myself up tomorrow because I have to do more work. Now, 3 days of that for me would be brilliant, and that would be like a 2-week holiday for anybody else.
Yes, well, but there you go. For some people, 2 or 3 days is all they need, and actually that's what they prefer, short and little breaks. But certainly, 40 years since your last holiday, or 35 years, that's pushing it a little bit beyond the limit. So, I mean, going back to that photo for a moment, so that was your ex-girlfriend, is that right?
That's right, yes.
In the shot. Well, I mean, the first thing that came to mind when I saw that picture was just, firstly, the sort of look on your face, the kind of facial expression and the way you're sort of holding her and rising out of the water, a bit like, I don't know, James Bond with...
Yes. Well, when you say a bit like James Bond, I mean, which bit are you talking about? I mean, it looks about similar to Daniel Craig as a sort of as a mudman.
I think it's a lot like James Bond, and I'm enjoying this, honey. Please go on.
Well, I did notice the haircut. Am I allowed to mention the word mullet?
Of course.
So I think that was probably where it deviated from the Daniel Craig a little bit.
Yeah, but that was the style in those days. I was a very fashionable young man.
Fair enough. I'll give you that. But certainly the way you were sort of coming up out of the water there with her in your arms, there was a lot of testosterone about the picture.
Yes, that's right.
A lot of...
You could see the enormous smile on her face.
Where did it all go wrong?
See the enormous smile on my girlfriend Trudy's face.
I think she looks a bit like she's been drugged, to be honest, honey. I'm not sure.
Either that or rescued, perhaps. Rescued from the.
Well, you see, if you knew more about Porky, you would suggest, like I'm about to, that he probably stunted the picture up. You got one of his friends to go, look, take this picture. It looks like I've rescued this beautiful maiden from the depths of the ocean.
No, it's my girlfriend. Now, let me ask you this as well, honey.
Okay.
Sometimes, if I've attempted a holiday with a girlfriend, it's been disastrous and it's led to a breakup.
Why?
Well, because I don't like being in the same room as somebody for the next 10 days.
Really?
It just bugs me. And
how do you think they feel?
Well, exactly. But they chose to come. So there was a young lady I went on holiday with to Portugal, and after about 3 days, I decided I didn't want any more of this, so I told her I was going home.
Well, I mean, certainly what you're describing there is actually quite common.
Yes.
I actually saw the other day the TV programme This Morning did a one-poll survey, and they found that 1 in 10 breakups happen whilst on holiday or when you get back from holiday. And I think there are a number of reasons for that, really. It's partly because what tends to happen is that you're sort of thrown together with your partner or your kids, and you've got this pressure to enjoy yourselves because you've got this 1 week or this 2 weeks, and it's sort of everything has got to be great because this is your one shot at a pleasurable time. And all of that pressure and the intensity of being together, often in very close proximity because you might be in a small apartment or sharing a room or something like that with the kids or whatever, that can really add a lot of stress to your normal kind of relationship or family dynamic. So it isn't uncommon actually to have a row or have a bit of conflict. Then there is also the conflict of interest. So for example, like I was saying earlier, what one person considers to be a holiday, another person might find dull or whatever else. So quite often they'll be, well, I want to do this, I want to do that. And that can cause a bit of disharmony
That's
as well.
True.
So
there's nothing worse. I mean, like you were saying there, honey, I mean, going to museums and things, I mean, that's not so easy to do with kids who absolutely hate it. And sometimes, couples, one wants to go to a museum and the other just doesn't care,
Yeah, the best way to deal with that actually is to plan ahead that there will be, me time and you time. So in effect, you decide what it is that you each want to get out of, let's say, the week.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, I'm going to have one afternoon, when I'm going to go and do what I want to do. You go and have a day when you go and do what you want to do, and we'll have a couple of days when we do something all together as a family.
Yeah.
And if you break it down like that, then it means that everybody gets a chance to do what they want to do on holiday, and they come back feeling a bit more renewed.
Yeah.
The worst thing is when you go away on holiday and you just feel like the whole time has been given over to what someone else wanted to do, and then it builds up resentment. So you come home, and that's when the conflict starts, because you're meant to come home and feel rested when actually you just feel exhausted and drained.
Well, I totally agree. I tell you, I've seen situations where couples go away together and there's one dominant male amongst the four people and he starts setting the agenda. Do you see what I mean? And at breakfast, now look, today I thought we'd do that. And then everybody else around the table is a little bit too worried about upsetting the apple cart by saying...
I've had that where
I don't want to do this.
I've got quite a large family, you see, and they're in disparate parts of the world. And, the more it's not definitely the merrier in these situations, because we'd sometimes sit around for an hour trying to figure out what to do, and then end up all storming out of the room in a huff.
Yeah, exactly.
Because nobody actually got what they wanted.
It can go one of two ways as well, because either everybody's trying to be polite to everyone else and agreeable and agree to things that they don't really want to do, but that kind of leads to this kind of passive aggression situation where everybody's secretly seething with one another because nobody's being assertive about what their needs are. Or it can go in the other direction where somebody is too assertive about what their needs are and doesn't sort of consider that everybody might have different ideas. So it can be quite a delicate situation to negotiate those kind of things, and it's important to sort of moderate your expectations when you go on holiday and not have too big an expectation that this is going to be wonderful and it's going to set you up for the next year.
That's right.
Now, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the other picture that we sent you. Did you have a chance to look at that one?
Yeah.
What did you make of that one? Because that was my picture.
So,
who are you with?
Was that Dover? Where was that?
It's actually just around the corner from Beachy Head.
Okay.
Because I thought since Porky's picture was in Britain, I wouldn't embarrass him by doing anything more sort of exotic than that.
Well, despite the fact that I've travelled the world 3 times.
Have you?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
anyway, please, honey, go on. If you've seen this pathetic sort of visage...
I have to say, I'm slightly disturbed by the way that you keep calling honey, honey. It's just somehow the way you say it. I don't know what it is. Anyway, sorry, honey, carry on.
That's her name, actually, What should I call her? Jam?
I know. It is. Hippie parents, I'm afraid. It's sort of, awkward. I'm stuck with it.
That's fine.
Well, that kind of vista picture, that kind of landscape without anybody in it, the first thing that occurred to me was just what a peaceful and relatively sort of there was nothing going on in the picture. There wasn't even a bird or a dog on the beach or anything. So the first thing that occurred to me was the fact that you chose to take that snap of that particular scene suggested that you were really very much in need of a bit of peace and quiet, and that you wanted to kind of capture that moment and grasp it and hold on to it.
Yeah, well, you've heard the guy that I work with. I mean, you've heard the guy that I work with, so it's hardly surprising, is it?
It's a bit harsh.
I guess not. But I suppose the first thing that occurred to me really was whether, when you went on that trip, were you under a lot of stress, or were you kind of really desperately in need of a bit of peace and quiet in your life? Because often when we take a snap, it means that we want to grasp that moment and hold on to it, and there's something precious about that moment. So the fact that you took a relatively empty landscape shot suggested that you needed a bit of time and space.
Well, also, it's probably...
I think that's very fair.
Probably one of the few minutes in any day when he's sober, so that's
there's a lot of projection that goes on. A lot of projection. You know about projection, honey, don't you?
And honey, can I just say, in the brief time we've got left, that
we have no time left.
The worst possible holiday scenario is on a cruise when you're suddenly seated at the table on day one of a 15-day cruise and the other 2 people on the table are just bums and you can't stand them and you don't know how to get away from them.
You throw yourself overboard.
On an informal cruise so that you can move around tables different nights and you don't get set seating.
Is that
right?
I
love cruises. I love cruise holidays, but I always go on those ones where you actually can choose your dinner guests or move around and it's free to mingle.
Exactly. Good thinking.
Tremendous.
You've got to
Honey, thank you so much for joining us. We have to leave it there, I'm afraid.
Welcome.
Honey Lancaster James there, analysing, I think rather cleverly, both the difference between you and I and our holiday snaps.
Yes.
You coming out as this sort of braggadocious, I'm a big superhero looking look at me carrying this woman out of the water.
She said I looked like
and
James
me,
Bond.
Just looking for a
You're
little bit.
You're just jealous because she said yours was a vacuous picture of some landscape, whereas I looked like James Bond.
Yeah,
did she say I looked like James Bond?
No, she said there was a little bit of James Bond about it.
There you go.
You know, like the Walker PPK or whatever it's called.
You have to accept it.
How about this one from Scott, who sent in a brilliant picture of a toy. He says, I've got a toy in my house, just like Mike Parry. You wind it up and it makes noise for hours.
That's so funny.
This is Talk Radio.
The two mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Good afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to Two Mics on Talk Radio. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to have the Porky Quiz on the Olympics, which has just been delivered by the independent quizmasters. It's looking very, very exciting. We're going to go up to Edinburgh, where the festival is already underway. Lots of coverage of it on TV, actually. The greatest show on earth. We, of course, have been named as one of the top 50 acts that are actually going to be on at the Edinburgh Festival.
We have indeed, yeah.
Which is rather pleasing.
And who are we talking to?
We're talking to Megan Juniper, who's got a show that's based on her experiences on Tinder, which should be quite interesting. You know what that is, don't you? Tinder, you know what that is, don't you?
Tinder.
It's a phone app.
Phone app, that's right, yeah.
It's a dating app, actually.
Is it? Oh,
you can call it a dating
app.
Some people call it something else.
So what, is she looking for a boyfriend or something?
Well, I don't know. You can find out when you speak to her. And also Magnus Linklater's coming on. Juniper.
Yeah, remember that song?
Yeah, of course.
Who sang
Donovan,
that?
wasn't it?
Donovan, that's right, yeah.
I saw a picture of him in the paper the other day, actually. He looked dreadful. But I suppose he would, wouldn't he?
Was he still alive?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Only just, though.
Well, if he's still alive, that's something to be said.
Magnus
for Linklater.
Star of
the 60s.
Do you know Magnus Linklater, columnist for the Times?
Magnus Linklater is a very old friend of mine.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, we'll ask him about that. But I've got a couple of great tweets to read out to you beforehand.
Okay.
Dylan says this about my picture. He says, never mind taking a picture. I'm surprised you didn't do worse at Beachy Head, having to work with Porky.
Oh,
you know where he's going with that.
That's shocking.
Yeah, shocking. And Dom says, James Bond, I'd say more like Brooke Bond.
Brooke Bond, come on. What about Basildon Bond? That's the usual one, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
And Patrick says, let's give Porky credit. He worked a miracle pulling that girl with that dreadful mop.
No. That was a style in those days, mate. He had hair that long.
You look a bit like one of the Bay City Rollers.
Yeah, I did a bit, yeah. And platform shoes, wide flares. I mean, I was in the groove, man.
It's shocking, really, to think of you dressed up like that. But you must try and find some more of your old pictures, though, because they are very entertaining.
Well, you know, you're obsessed by my early life because...
No, not at all obsessed. It's just because everything you do, as I said yesterday, is so secretive. It's just nice to get a little sort of window into your little world.
There's nothing secretive about what I do at all.
Really?
Don't even worry.
What are you doing later?
Sorry?
What are you doing later?
Later on when?
Tonight.
Tonight?
Yeah.
I've got a meeting, actually.
A meeting?
Meeting.
Oh, what sort of meeting?
It's a meeting...
It's a secret meeting?
No, it's not a secret meeting.
Is it?
It's a meeting with our distributors.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, what are you going to talk about?
Distribution.
Distribution of what?
Videos, T-shirts. We seem to have run out of them. I've got to get
them restocked. We have run out of them,
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's a load down and be shipped up to Edinburgh, actually.
That's right. Mugs.
Mugs.
Yeah.
What happened to the mugs, by the way? We haven't got any mugs.
Yeah, well, they have. This is what I'm talking about tonight. And also, people, believe it or not, I don't know why this is the case. You know, when we go to a show and we have banners that we pull up, which are full-length visages of you and I outside the halls where we're performing. People have started to want to buy those and put them up in their own homes.
Well, pictures of us like outside Dingballs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No. You know the banners that we have, which stand 6 feet tall
outside
the theatre.
Yes.
People are now ordering those. They want them, and they want them for their own home.
What? So put a banner up of the two mics?
Yes.
In your own front room.
In your own front room.
Yeah, great.
Or in your office, or in your bedroom, or whatever, you know. And I had a communication from one guy who's got one, and said that at the party, when everybody started getting bladderated and all that, the most popular people in the room were you and me, even though we weren't there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
How bizarre.
Exactly.
I'm just looking at the breaking news up here. Brazilian police arrest Moroccan Olympic athlete on claims he sexually assaulted 2 Brazilian waitresses in the Olympic Village.
Yes, but it's only an allegation.
It's only an allegation.
Yes,
it's not getting off to a great start, the old Olympics, is it?
Well,
you've got people out there trying to douse the Olympic flame.
Yes.
Right? You've got the Australians who said they didn't want to live in the quarters that they had been provided with on the grounds that they were too
very
shabby.
Poor quality.
Terrible quality.
You've got a
corpses turning up in the sailing lake.
Corpses turning up in the sailing lake.
Which is a bit unfortunate.
Yes, and all round, really, a sense of, are they going to be ready on time?
But do you not think as well, though, once it all happens, it'll all be a bit like London
of course
was,
it will.
when everybody was predicting doom and gloom, gridlock on the traffic. Funnily enough, it was exactly 4 years ago, I think, yesterday, when I took my son to his first ever football match, which was an Olympic football match.
Oh, really?
At Wembley Stadium.
Oh, okay.
And I think it was Mexico against somebody like...
Mexico!
I can't remember. I think it might have been an African team. I can't remember exactly. But it was amazing. I told you that story, right? Because we got these tickets online.
Yes.
And without realising it, we'd found ourselves, a bit like yourself at Everton,
yes,
on the executive floor. We kept going,
Excellent.
you go up the escalators.
Keep going up.
And we kept going up and up and up, and I kept looking at the tickets and keep going up until we got into this very hushed corridor.
Exactly.
And we had a box all to ourselves.
That's brilliant.
So, of course, it was terrible for him because he thought this is what football was like every time you go.
Yeah, exactly.
And we had
isolated.
This amazing... I mean, it wasn't...
Did you get the crowd noise and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah, no, we had all that.
Yeah?
We had all
could
that.
you have that in a box of your own?
Well, because the seats were outside the box.
Oh, I see.
And the box inside had a bar and everything. There was not, but it wasn't working.
Right,
So we had our own toilet. It was lovely.
Yeah,
it was really nice.
Good.
Now, Magnus Linklater is here, columnist for the Times, also an old Etonian, because you, of course, amongst many of your other prejudices, think that Eton is somewhere that should remain as elitist as it possibly can be.
I'm a little bit worried about the new headmaster of Eton, who's saying we've got to become more egalitarian.
Right. Yeah.
And far from being an elitist institution, he thinks it should be more open to all.
Well, let's ask Magnus what he thinks.
I don't agree with that.
Well, let's ask Magnus. Magnus, very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for joining us, Magnus. Now, Mike Parry claims to be a friend of yours. I don't know whether you wish to make any comment on that later on, but what will you make of the headmaster suggesting that it's time to make Eton less elitist?
Well, I think I probably go along with that. Depends what he means by elitist. I mean, by elitist, what do you mean by that? Do you mean toffs? Mm-hmm. Do you mean hedge fund managers who are about the only people who can afford Eton these days?
Yes.
Right. Or foreign dictators?
Or do you mean Russian oligarchs? Right. I mean, I think our definition of elitist is changing somewhat. So if he means we should make, let's take it at its simplest level, a very excellent education more available to more people, you couldn't disagree with that, could you?
Well, you couldn't. But I suppose the problem with the word elite is that in some senses it's a sort of positive word, like when we talk about elite athletes going to Rio. Yeah. But in every other sense, it's now a derogatory word, isn't it?
Well, let me just explain a bit more, Magnus. It's great having on the show, and I'm going to tell you where we first met in a minute. But the new headmaster,
you can remember.
The new headmaster is Simon Henderson, and basically his policy is he says that the world's most famous school must aspire to become an agent of social change. That's the way he sees it. Now, is he? I don't mind social change, and I want the institutions like Eton to be available to children from poorer homes who have high intelligence and who could cope there physically and mentally. But I don't want to see, for instance, the end of the Eton wall game. I don't want to see the end of the very, very distinctive and traditional costume that Eton scholars wear.
Well, can't you have both? Can you have people from the East End of London dressing up in a tailcoat and playing the wall game?
Well, I hope so.
The two go together. You have to take your tailcoat off first. But
yes, exactly.
Isn't that possible?
But you see, haven't you just betrayed your roots there, Magnus, by saying people from the East End of London? I mean, have you ever been to the East End of London?
Yes, I have. Don't try and get me on that one.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, people from the East End of London have changed over the years now. They're not sort of the Cockney types. Now it's a very largely Asian place, right? And probably they're the kind of people who can afford to send their kids to Eton.
That's a fair point, yes. But just on this business of, I think, you see, the reason he's making this argument is at the heart of the whole public school debate is this question of their charitable status. Now, a lot of people question whether a school like Eton, which draws, people who can afford £30,000 to £40,000 a year in school fees, why such a place should qualify for charitable status, which it has. The only way you can continue to justify that is if you say, we're going to make this education available to a far wider clientele, if you like.
Yes. But I think that's a good thing. But we see the contradiction here.
But you want it to remain elite, don't you?
I want it to remain elite. I think if parents are paying £40,000 or £50,000 a year for the education of their children, it could be inherited money, but it could be because they're very successful in what they do in life. And that's particularly true now of emerging economies like China and India. Now, if they're paying for this at an elite school like Eton, they then take exception to the Eton headmaster saying, oh, by the way, during the summer holidays, we're going to open up the Eton swimming pool and the Eton gym and the Eton playing fields to these children from Slough,
which is a
particularly scruffy town in England.
Ooh, this is dangerous territory.
Well, I'm only expressing my own view.
Yes, well, that's dangerous, I would have thought. I mean, after all, because what you're kind of saying that we want to make it more elitist, and if we take in people from poorer backgrounds, we're sort of diluting that elitism. Well, I disagree with that, actually.
Yeah.
Because you just said yourself that the people you want to help are people from poorer backgrounds, but who are very bright and would benefit from this kind of education.
Indeed.
And that's exactly what we should be trying to do.
Yeah.
I mean, the only justification for public schools is if they offer a very high standard of education, which, by the way, Eton didn't in my day.
Yes.
In my day, Eton, you really rubbed along. That was about it. But,
sure.
But I gather it's changed, and probably since I left, it's changed.
Yeah.
But so you want to get a wider body of people involved in that, don't you?
Yeah,
so
yes, I do.
Opportunities.
But can I say, Mags, I think that Eton now take the rap for the fact that we don't have any grammar schools anymore. Because in my view, grammar schools were designed to do the very thing that I'm talking about. Take children from homes that can't afford to pay fees at a good school and give them a sparklingly good education.
Well, is this interview now extending into grammar schools and comprehensive education? Because this is going to take a very long time.
No. What I'm saying is Eton now...
You're diluting the argument now, though.
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm saying that Eton is taking the brunt of elitism now because there's nothing in the middle between our comprehensive system and Eton. There used to be. There used to be grammar schools, and therefore Eton was left alone. It's now seen as elitist because children from working-class homes don't have the opportunity to have a great education at grammar schools.
Yeah, yes, that's a fair point. I agree with that. But by the way, here's the statistic. It's quite interesting.
Right.
Because these fees are so enormous. I mean, they are colossal these days. I think you said between 40 and 50 thousand a year. I think that's probably about right.
Yeah.
Very few people, can afford them.
Yeah.
So they have to look abroad for more of their pupils. And I think I'm right in saying that between 30 to 40% of people who go to public schools in Britain these days come from abroad. That's a very, very high proportion.
And I'm sure you're right.
And is it, for example, Magnus, sorry to interrupt you for a second because we haven't got a lot of time here. In the days when it was important to say that you were from a big public school in this country, you could get on. It may be that now overseas that's more worthwhile. I mean,
it is.
Would it ever come to the point here where you could actually be discriminated against in some businesses for having gone to Eton?
Well, listen, I've been in journalism all my life. I can tell you that when I started on the Daily Express in Manchester in the 1960s, I suppressed all evidence of my public school background, and Eton education did not help you in those surroundings.
Yeah.
I can tell you.
Sure.
Well, that's because you were meeting people like Mike Parry, presumably. Is that when you met him?
No, at all. Magnus, did you used to work on the Yorkshire Post?
No.
I thought I'd met you on the Yorkshire Post.
Well, obviously not.
When I worked on the Birmingham Mail, so that wasn't the first time I met you. You worked on the Times, didn't you?
I worked on the Times, but I've worked on the Observer, Sunday Times,
yes,
London
all of
Daily
those.
News. Remember the London Daily News?
Of course I do. Mr. Maxwell's fantastic...
Ill-fated venture.
Yeah. But anyway, Magnus, our paths have crossed in the past. It's great to have a gentleman and a scholar on the show. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Magnus. Magnus Linklater there from the Times, of course, talking about, very interestingly, how he sometimes had to pretend he didn't go to Eton because it would have worked in absolute reverse. But isn't it extraordinary yet again that somebody you claim to be a good friend of yours has actually never met you at all?
Well, I've met thousands of journalists during my lifestyle. One great fact here before we go.
Time, by the way.
The percentage of pupils with an old Etonian father went down from 60% in 1965 to 20% now.
Yeah, well, there we are. This is Talk Radio.
UK, online and on DAB.
The two mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Everybody can see it's a wonderful night. It's a wonderful night. Go ahead and release. It's a wonderful night. Come on and break it on. You know the music
This is Talk Radio. We are the two mics, and of course, one of the things that is absolutely all over the media at the moment, Mr. Parry, is the Edinburgh Festival. Because it's already getting underway up there. There's some great scenes, and the weather looks wonderful.
Yes.
There's people out on the streets. You know, there's street performers.
Indeed.
There's various theatres putting on all kinds of different shows, from literally a one-man show or a one-woman show to
one-man band.
Thank you. To entire kind of troops of people, musical things, comedy, edgy stuff.
You bet.
We're going to talk now to somebody who I think I'm right in saying is going to the Edinburgh Festival for the first time.
Excellent.
It is Megan Juniper. Megan, a very good afternoon to you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, of course, we're going up to Edinburgh as well, and we'll tell people a little bit about our show later on, but let's hear about your show. It's all about Tinder, I understand.
Yes, so my show is called Love Me Tinder Cabaret.
Right.
It's a show that is based on my own personal experiences of Tinder in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a mixture of music, live music in particular, and comedy. So it's kind of it fits between kind of cabaret, musical theatre and comedy.
OK, that's great. What sort of a venue are you performing at, Megan?
So it's a small little venue it's part of the Space Theatres,
right.
And it's called Space Triple X.
Great.
It's a nice, small, intimate audience, so it means that we can see everybody and interact a lot better. And
up close and personal. Are you suggesting that your experiences on Tinder have all been comical?
Well, some of them have been, more so than others.
Well, without giving away too much about what's on the show, why don't you tell us something about one of the stories that you're going to be, or one of the kind of experiences that you're going to be relating?
Okay, so obviously not all Tinder experiences are bad. You can also have the good experience as well. But
neither of us know, you see, because neither of us have ever tried Tinder.
No, I mean, what is Tinder, Megan? You've got to explain it to me.
Okay, so Tinder it's an online dating app.
Right.
It's you have pictures that are supplied. It's linked to your Facebook account, so you can choose which pictures you want on there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like speed dating on your phone.
I see. But isn't it one of these situations where some ugly individual can just post somebody else's picture and say, "This is me"?
Well, we hope to think that people don't do that.
Right.
But you do. I'm sure you do get a few people out there who a bit of the kind of catfish thing where they're trying to be someone else. But in my experience, I haven't luckily not come across that far too much.
I mean, the people that I've spoken to in the office here, for example, who have been on Tinder, have said that it's not so much a dating app as a kind of a sex app, really.
I think some people do use it for that. I think a lot of the bad media does come across as having Tinder as a sex app.
Yeah.
But I think it can work as well for that dating purpose and for meeting new people in a more interactive way, which it seems to be the way in which our society is heading is having far more media and less social interaction.
But Megan, if you remember the expressions we all do in our business, the tears of a clown, is this sadly you penning some thoughts on a failed attempt to find a partner in life on a regular basis?
Harsh,
well, I'm asking the question.
Yeah, I think so. I think it is something that me, myself, I'm looking for as well.
Yeah.
So, but it is something that people do hope to look for as well, having another partner. And sadly, it doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah.
So, it's just the way it goes, really.
Well, see, Porky, I mean, you haven't had a date for many a year, right?
No,
would that be the right way to describe it?
True and ridiculous. We're talking about Megan.
Well, when was the last time you had a date?
well, how did you find a date? Last time I took out a good-looking woman for dinner, a few weeks ago.
Really?
Yes.
Was it a date?
It was work and socialising. It all wraps itself into each other, Megan, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, but you see the difference between Tinder, which is what Megan's talking about, and whatever you're talking about, and I have no idea what it was or who the woman was, is, nobody's in any doubt, Megan, what you're after if you're on Tinder.
I think as long as you're clear on what you want out of it, I think it can provide what you want. I think
did it do that for you? Did it provide what you wanted?
No.
No. There you go.
Honestly, no. Yeah. But in some ways it's been good because it's meant that I've got lots of material.
Well, it's given you a show. And was I right in saying this is your first trip to the Edinburgh Festival?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. Are you frightened or nervous or anything?
Yeah, I'm a little bit scared, but I'm also super excited.
Yeah.
Good. Have you started yet?
Yeah. No, we start tonight.
Okay, and how are your ticket sales gone?
A little bit slowly at the moment.
Well, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that, Megan. Let me tell you, the Edinburgh Festival, a lot of it is people who walk up and have a look and see your beautiful face on the poster and say, we're going in there. So don't worry an iota about that.
Thank you.
Perhaps we can give the tickets a bit of a boost. What's the venue and where are the tickets?
Okay, so the venue is Space Triple X. Yeah. It's right by the Surgeons Hall. The tickets you can get from the Space Box Office, or you can buy through the Edinburgh Fringe website as well.
Fantastic.
We're on at 11:20 this evening, so a late show, but hopefully bring in some punters.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And will you have been taking drink by the time you arrive on stage?
I'll probably try and go a little bit slowly tonight.
Yeah, good idea.
The first one.
Good idea.
But, yeah, and if anyone fancies coming along, it'd be great to have you there. And also there's a bar downstairs, so you can bring in your drinks and have a really good time.
Tremendous.
Well, sounds
Megan, listen, the best of luck with it.
Best of luck.
And I hope it all goes well. Maybe we'll see you up there.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, that'd be great.
Fantastic.
Yes, lovely.
Megan, thank you very much indeed. Megan Juniper with a show about Tinder. I mean, our show, you could say, is in complete antithesis of that. Because, as I say, you haven't been out with anybody for years. So we could be the anti-Tinder show. You could tell stories about all the people that you haven't been out with.
You're so jealous of my, the way I've conducted my relationships during my life, because I've never...
Is that what you think?
Well, I've never stacked up the sort of problems you have to deal with.
Well, no, that's because you've just been completely and utterly selfish and not cared about anybody else in the world, apart from your own little orbit of personalities.
Yeah.
The trouble with you is you're in love with yourself, and that's why you could never love anybody else.
No, that's not
apart
true
from the fact you fear commitment, and also you're frightened of somebody coming into your life who might take away all your money. Aren't you?
Well...
You are, aren't you? Just admit it.
No.
Just admit it.
No, I wouldn't say I'm frightened of people taking away my money.
You are. It's the only thing you care about.
I don't like people stealing from me, obviously.
Has anyone ever stolen from you?
Well, who knows? I mean, you get duped in situations, don't you?
Do you?
But I'm pretty much smarter than the average bear, so I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay. All right.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Could we have come up with the Olympics?
I totally agree.
Which gets underway in Rio. Kind of has already got underway, but officially gets underway with the opening ceremony tonight.
That's right.
Andy Murray's going to be carrying the flag.
Certainly is.
Of Team GB.
Sounds good.
Of course, second Scotsman in as many two Olympics to do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, as ever, the 10 questions have been provided by the independent quizmasters. I have suggested that you may be lucky to get 2 out of 10. You're claiming you might get 7. On the grounds that you were, of course...
I have an Olympic pedigree.
Olympic Supremo in Atlanta. So, as ever, there are only correct answers. There's no multiple choice. If you get one answer right, you will hear this sound. And if you get one wrong...
That's not much of a sound.
Well, you don't...
Yeah, go on.
If you get... I'm told that's the wrong one. All right, so can we have the right sound, please?
Yes.
What's the right sound? There you go.
There we go.
Now, if you get one wrong, you'll hear this sound. Sounds like Frankie Howard.
It does a bit, yeah.
Where they got that one from. Anyway, right, you ready for question number 1?
Yeah, please.
Question number 1. Sally Gunnell won gold in the 400 metres hurdles in 1992.
Yes.
But in what city was that Olympics held?
1992 was Barcelona.
Correct.
Thank you. Woo, 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 woo. What a start.
That's not a bad start for you. Question number 2. Which country does legendary long-distance runner and winner of 4 gold medals at the 72 and 76 Summer Olympics, Lassie Viren, hail from?
Lassie Viren, thinking aloud.
Yeah.
Lassie, the only other Lassie I know is a dog, so it's not anything to do with him. And he came from America.
Yeah, it's not Crufts we're talking about.
I know the answer to this
and
one.
By the way, if you're watching this live on Facebook, I'm just covering up the sheet of paper I've got here because I figure you can actually read it from there.
No. The answer to that one is Finland.
Correct. Are you sure you haven't seen these questions?
100%.
Are you sure you haven't seen these questions?
100%.
Are you sure you haven't seen these questions?
Could you get on with the quiz, please?
All right, question number 3. Who is the British sprint kayaker who won a gold and bronze medal at the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, as well as a bronze back in 2000 in Sydney?
What a ridiculous
You won't get
question.
this one. No chance.
Well, you see, exactly. That question is
I
designed...
don't set the questions.
Listen, This happens every time we have a quiz. I get the first two right, and then...
You hardly ever get the first two
And then
right.
the substitute questions come in.
That
is the most ridiculous question I've ever heard of.
He's an Olympian.
I don't know the name of any kayaker in the history of the Olympic movement or in the history of Britain.
Do you want to have a stab at it?
I am going to have a stab at it,
yeah. Okay.
So the kayaker's name is...
Go on.
And he's British, is he?
He is British.
I would say his name is Tom Wolfe.
Incorrect. Surprising in a way that you didn't get this one right, because you once interviewed him.
What?
You interviewed him on the Sports Breakfast with Mr. Brazil.
Why would I do that?
On Talk Sport. His name is Tim Brabants.
Tim Brabants.
Do you remember that?
Well, I got a T, didn't I, for Tom? Tim Brabant. No, I don't remember.
Well, he apparently
What's
he's
he
on
doing
drive
these
today.
days?
He's on drive later on.
Flipping hamburgers?
No, he's on
sorry.
drive.
Oh,
No.
is he? Right, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so actually, if he comes in the office, I'll introduce you to him.
Okay, yeah.
Question
Right.
number 4. In the London Olympics in 1908,
Yes.
which legendary Italian long-distance runner finished first in the marathon, but was subsequently and controversially disqualified?
Well, he was disqualified because he got rubbery legs at the end of the race.
Rubbery legs?
Rubbery legs, as he
Right.
came into the White City Stadium.
Uh-huh. How do you know that?
Sorry?
How do you know that?
What nationality, you said? Italian?
He's Italian.
His name was...
If you get this right, I know you cheated.
His name was... and he was... do you know why he was disqualified? Because somebody helped him over the line. And his name was... it was...
Come on, I have to hurry you.
Gianni Zippali.
Incorrect.
What?
Correct answer was Dorando Pietri.
But I get half a point
No.
for the details
No.
of the end of the race.
No, because
See?
I don't...
Another fixed question.
Well, no, because I don't
Another
have
fixed
that.
question.
That's not down here.
So now it's gone from, after two questions,
So
100%.
you've gone from 100% to 50%.
To 50%.
So
yeah.
2 out of 4.
See how rigged it is?
It's not rigged at all.
Right, go on.
These are all questions about the Olympics. Question number 5. The centrepiece for the Beijing 2008 Olympics was the National Stadium, but it is more commonly known by what nickname?
It is more commonly known, thinking aloud, because
This is easy, this one.
Did the World Cup in South Africa. And
What's that got to do with it?
Well, they had one built by the same architect. It was called the Bird's Nest.
Correct.
Hey! Woo, woo, woo.
Okay, 3 out of 5.
60%.
60%, not bad. Question number 6. In London 2012, Britain's Alistair Brownlee memorably won gold, but in which event?
Well, him and his brother were good. He had a brother. I used to,
brothers Brownlee.
The first guy ever taught me in journalism was called John Brownlee.
Was he?
Yeah, it's a northeast name. They came from the northeast.
Okay.
So Alistair and his mate were in some kind of event where two people do it at the same time.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what I reckon they might have been?
I think you're on the right track.
They might have been. I think they
I think there might have been rackets involved.
I think they were Brownlee. Now, I've got an image in my head of them in running shorts, but I have to think that they were probably tennis players. So I reckon they won the tennis doubles.
Incorrect.
No. Well, you gave me a hint. You said rackets. You said rackets involved.
Well, I said, do you think there were rackets
No,
involved?
you didn't.
I did.
You didn't.
Do you think there were Calm down.
You said rackets involved.
Do you think there were rackets involved?
What's the answer?
The answer is the men's triathlon, which anybody could have told you. My son could have told you the answer to that. Yeah. Right, that's 3 out of 6.
Back to 50%.
Back to 50%. Question number 7.
Yeah.
It's about your hero, Steve Redgrave.
Oh, yes.
He won his 5th and final gold medal in the coxless fours in Sydney 2000. His boat consisted of Tim Foster, Matthew Pinsent, and which other legendary rower?
There aren't any more legendary rowers after Pinsent and Redgrave.
Well, there were more than 3 of them.
Yeah, but
you can't be in the coxless four and go, we've only got 3 today.
No, the other 2 weren't legendary.
Well, that's the question.
Hang on. Matthew Pinsent, Steve Redgrave. What was the third guy's name?
Tim Foster.
Tim Foster.
Yeah.
And...
What's his name?
Bernie Wilson.
Incorrect.
No.
We've also interviewed this guy as well.
Who's it?
His name is James Cracknell.
Oh, Cracknell.
You met him,
and
I've spoken to him on TalkSport.
Didn't he bash his head in on the wing mirror of a lorry in America?
Well, he did.
Poor
Well,
chap.
Well, actually, no, the wing mirror hit him. It wasn't
that's
really
what I mean,
his fault.
yeah.
Oh, he's
that's
all
a
right
shame.
now, though, but thanks for your concern.
That's right,
That's 3 out of 7. It's now dipped to below 50%. Question number 8.
For the first time.
Name the legendary American diver who won gold medals at the 1984 and 1988 Olympic Games on both the springboard and platform.
What years were they?
84 and 88.
84 and 88?
Yeah.
Diver?
Yeah, the wilderness years, as far as you're concerned.
Well, it wasn't Mark Spitz, because he was a swimmer.
Are you sure?
Yeah, he was a swimming dentist, wasn't he?
Swimming dentist?
Yeah, he was a dentist. He became a swimmer, or the other way around, I think.
All right.
Let me see.
The swimming dentist?
Yes, he was.
Sounds like a show in Edinburgh.
It does me, yeah. So this guy was off the high board, was he?
Springboard and platform.
Springboard and platform.
Technically is the correct...
Okay, just thinking aloud here, I think his name was... I know where he came from. He came from Lookout Mountain in Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
And his name was...
Why do you know that?
I know that. And his name was Skip Bornhooter. So what's your problem?
No.
What's your problem?
Incorrect. It's Greg Louganis.
Greg Louganis,
very famous Olympian.
Is he?
Yeah, he's as famous as Mark Spitz.
Is he?
Yeah. That's 3 out of 8.
Right.
I'm not sure I can work the percentage out on that. Question number 9.
Well, I can. It's easy.
All right, what is it?
312.5, 37.5%.
312.5. Okay.
18 to 100 is 12.5.
Is it? Okay, if you say so.
Yeah.
Which woman won a silver medal in the mixed doubles badminton in Athens and is a popular guest on Talk Sport?
What? The mixed doubles badminton?
Yeah.
That's about as popular as people who go around sticking pins in their eyeballs. I mean, what a ridiculous question.
Badminton's a very, very popular sport.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a badminton set.
Oh, great. And how many people come around and watch you playing badminton?
Well, I don't sell tickets. I play with the kids. You numpty.
Right. It was... Oh, I've just remembered.
Yeah.
Thinking aloud.
Okay.
She had the same name as a member of the Supremes.
Really?
Mary Wilson.
Incorrect.
No.
Well, you've probably tried Diana Ross.
No.
It was Gail Ems, who you've also met and spoken to on Talk Sport.
Really?
Yes.
Well, you know.
So you're now looking at 3 out of 9, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately
Sorry,
for you...
people cackling in the background here?
Because you're supposed to be an Olympics expert, right?
No, it's some stupid questions.
You said you had an Olympic pedigree.
All the decent questions I've got right. All the rubbish questions... Which you changed because
I've only got one set of questions here. Look,
just get on with it.
I've got one set of questions that anybody who's watching this on Facebook can see. Now, question number 10. In order for you to get 4 out of 10,
which would be 40%,
I predicted 2 out of 10. You might get 3. The late and great actor Ian Charleson plays which Scottish athlete in the Oscar-winning film Chariots of Fire, who has to compromise his religious beliefs in the 1924 Olympics in Paris?
Yes. Now, there were 2 guys in that. One was called. Abraham or something, wasn't it?
Abraham?
Wasn't it Abraham? Now, hang on, what's the question again?
The question is, the late and great actor Ian Charleson plays which Scottish athlete in the Oscar-winning film Chariots of Fire?
I know this.
Who has to compromise his religious beliefs in the 1924 Olympics
in
Paris?
He wouldn't do the heats on a Sunday.
We're nearly out of time.
He wouldn't do the heats on a
I
Sunday.
don't care about any explanations. I need a name. I need a name.
His name was...
Come on, I have to hurry you.
It was something like...
Keep going.
Ellis.
Keep going.
Something Ellis.
Yeah, go on.
It was...
Go on, you're on the right track.
Oh...
Go on.
Harry... No, Houdini.
Harry Ellis.
No. It was... but it was... Dun 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 dun.
I'm being told to cut you off for time.
Harry Ellis.
Harry Ellis. Incorrect.
No.
You're like one of those suggestible creatures, aren't you? It was Eric Liddell.
Eric Liddell. That sounds like Harry Ellis.
No, it doesn't sound anything like it. So I'm afraid a grand total of 3 out of 10.
That's not bad.
Which is pretty good for an Olympic supremo and a man who has, in his own words, an Olympic pedigree.
Considering the questions
Absolutely
are so rubbish.
Shocking. This is Talk Radio.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The 2 mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
This is Talk Radio. We are, of course, the 2 mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, I'm sure. Yasmin Khan's going to be in a little while to tell us about what's coming up on the Drive show, which gets underway at 4 o'clock, of course. I'll just finish off that little story I was telling you about, because the guy who was the manager of Duran Duran, latterly, this was on their sort of one of their comeback tours, was a guy that you know very well.
Who?
Peter
Rudge?
Pete Rudge.
Right, okay.
And this is a guy who, some people may not have heard the story, was at one time the road manager for the Rolling Stones.
In America.
Yeah. And unfortunately for him, he got a tax demand for $1 million.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
because it turned out that Mick Jagger and the other Stones, who'd been playing around the country for the best part of 9 months, had sort of somehow not in an illegal way, had somehow sort of gerrymandered the accounts to the extent where they hadn't paid all the taxes they were meant to pay. But instead of the tax people going after them, they went after him, because he was the road manager and he was responsible for an awful lot of the money that went in and out. And you know about all those stories we both heard about Led Zeppelin when the guy Peter Grant would walk around with a huge sack of money.
He had the Holy Grail, like the box that's held by 2 rods.
Yeah.
He had all the money put in there, and
he demanded to be paid in cash.
That's right.
He was walked around with a gun, and if you didn't give him what he wanted, he threatened to kill you and all this kind of thing. So that was kind of the atmosphere.
Yes.
But poor old Peter Rudge, I have to say, and I mean these are in his words, he was kind of thrown to the lions by the Stones because they didn't actually. If I'd been Mick Jagger, I'd have gone, here's £1 million. Yeah. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
but instead of which they let him be sort of
the
torn
Stones
and tattered through the whole Inland Revenue Service of America.
I mean, the Stones were themselves getting ripped off by all sorts of people in the music industry because they went to that Prince Rupert, whatever his name was.
I remember him.
He died actually last year. We did a thing on his obituary.
That's right.
And he was a very well-to-do sort of financier who sorted out all their affairs. But I mean, Mick Jagger literally said we were going bankrupt, because they were selling millions of records, but nobody's ever paying him any money.
Yeah, right.
And so it could well be that it's during that period. But the story I remember about Rudgie was our late dear departed friend Philip Finn, who worked with me in the New York Bureau and worked with you in the same days there. He went up to see Rudgie. It might have been about that story. It was certainly something to do with the Stones.
Yeah.
And it was one of these situations where the woman who answered the door, the maid, thought he was from the record company in America, in London, and all because he had this British accent and he had a bow tie on.
Right.
She just let him in, and Phil went in, and then she showed him into the breakfast room and all that. And then half an hour later, Richie came down and he said, "Who are you?" And Phil said, "I'm Philip Finn from the Daily Express." He said, "What are you doing in my house? What are you doing in my apartment?" And he said,
there was a lot of that in those days, wasn't there? They just let you in because they
Yeah.
thought you looked quite well presented.
That's right.
Because a lot of American journalists are quite scruffy, aren't they?
That's right. And he said, "Well, your maid let me in." He said, "Who did you tell her you were?" He said, I told her I was Philip from the Daily Express.
Yeah.
But I think she thought I was from the record company,
Right. Well, I mean, Rudge had a great sort of history, and one of the great stories about it was in Costello's one night. You might not have been there for this, but there was a horrible character by the name of Ian Black.
Oh, God, I
who was
can't
a ghastly
stand him.
guy. He was kicked out of London because
Dreadful
he was abusive of women and all sorts of things. But he bizarrely became very good friends with the film family.
Yeah, that's right.
What was their name? The guys.
The guy eventually went on to win an Oscar, actually.
He did.
And his name was...
He was the guy from The Big Lebowski, wasn't he?
Yeah, there were three brothers who all had varying degrees of success. But anyway, Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, the Bridges family. And he used to fly around with them on a private jet, which nobody could understand. Anyway, he was in Costello's one night. Pete Rudge was there. Everyone was sort of chatting and generally being convivial. And at some point or other, as he often did when he was a bit sort of too many sheets to the wind, Black sort of turned on this guy and said, I don't know who you think you are. You're coming in here telling your stories about the Rolling Stones and you think you're the big guy and all this kind of thing. And he started like pointing his finger in his chest.
As Black used to.
I don't like you and I'm not going to have any more of it. Just shut up, And old Rudgie, who'd been in the rock and roll business a long time, he went, look, just don't do that, please. Just leave me alone. I don't want any trouble. I just don't want any trouble. And this went on for about 15 minutes.
Yes.
Until eventually...
And Black wouldn't give up.
Black wouldn't give up. And he just kept pushing him and pushing him and pushing him. Eventually, Rudge said, OK, so let's go outside. He said, we're not do this in front of everybody else. So we all watched the two of them go outside.
Yeah.
And we waited for about 5 minutes, and then we all kind of trundled out to see what was going on.
Yeah.
Rudge had the guy on the ground with his knee on his throat.
Right.
And he just put the guy down and was threatening. Was the guy was about to kill him. And we all sort of pulled him off. And Black was never seen again.
Well, Black,
but what a horrendous character.
Black deserved that sort of treatment.
But the thing is, you don't mess with people in rock and roll.
No,
not in those days because they knew what they were doing.
Oh, if they were in some sort of stadium in Philadelphia and some guy storming the stage and threatening to kill your bass player or something like that, the only thing you do is put your fist or your foot in his face.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only way it works.
Now I've got some tweets here on the Porky Quiz. Right, Steve says this: the fairest Porky Quiz in my memory, and the expert scores 3 out of 10. He says I'm off to Ellis to buy some fresh flowers.
Yeah, okay.
Danny says I know next to nothing about the Olympics, but I got 4 out of 10.
Rubbish.
I beat the Supremo.
I don't think so. There's one very cruel one here asking me why did my accent change when we were interviewing the guy from Eton.
Now that is true.
I mean, what's all that about? I mean, eh?
Well, I think what he's suggesting is that you are in many ways a charlatan.
Nine.
You are. Nine. Nine? What have you got German now?
I think you have to address the guests on this show
no, because
according to their social status.
Yeah, but you describe people like Magnus Linklater as a top person.
Yes.
Because he went to a top school.
Yeah, well,
and you think you're on the same level as him, but in fact, he'd never heard of you.
Well,
which is fascinating.
No, I'm not sure
Rob
about
says
that.
this: I can't believe Porky didn't get Gail Ems right. Too busy thinking of his forthcoming bladderation session.
What do you mean?
This, of course, is your secret meeting coming up tonight.
Well, it's not a secret meeting.
Is it not actually a date you're going on?
Oh, no. Are
you sure?
Don't stop putting that about.
Who are you meeting? Are you meeting a male member of the distribution service, or is it a female member?
Well, I expect there'll be several people there.
Several.
But the boss of the organisation is a lady.
Right.
Very
Really?
elegant lady.
Oh,
yeah. And
why? And
striking
presumably
lady.
you'll be meeting just the boss then, will you?
Well, I'm normally in the position where I do meet just the bosses. You know what I mean? So
right.
I
it is a date then, isn't it?
No.
You go for dinner?
May have dinner later.
Have you booked a restaurant?
Well,
why don't you go to the Rubbing House?
That's a very fine restaurant on the edge of Epsom Downs,
and very appropriately named.
Why?
Well, because it just sounds funny to me. Sounds like a comedy restaurant. I expect Benny Hill to be serving the main
Well, you
course.
see, your sheer ignorance of the sporting nature of our business is that the rubbing house is where they rub the horses down.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why it's called a rubbing house.
They rub you down while you're there.
No. I mean, we've arranged to meet for champagne cocktails.
I thought you didn't drink champagne.
Early evening. I don't. I'll have something else.
So she'll be having champagne cocktails?
Yeah, she will. Yeah.
That's a rather sort of forward-type drink to be having for a business meeting, isn't it?
Why?
Well, if you're having a business meeting, you meet for coffee these days. I mean, we're not in the the heyday of Fleet Street anymore.
I think it's 6:30 in the evening. It's perfectly acceptable to meet for, particularly at the end of the week.
I wouldn't
Friday.
give out the venue, by the way,
No,
because the paparazzi might show up.
No. Well,
it could be embarrassing for you.
No, they won't. I think you're winding me up there. But I mean, nevertheless, it's a meeting of necessitation. You'll be starting
necessitation.
You'll be starting
on a meeting of bladderation.
No, you'll be starting on your 2-week.
Because I've got I haven't got too much
trail.
more. I haven't got too much more. I'll tell you what I had to do though, which annoyed me. Do you remember we talked a few weeks back, or maybe earlier? In fact, it was last year, I think. Do you remember they introduced this thing where they're doing away with the paper part of the driving license?
Yes.
Because they said basically, if you want to go abroad
yes.
and you want to hire a car, what you're going to have to do is obtain a code from the DVLA.
That's right.
Right, just in case
so
the people.
You got it?
Yeah. Well, I decided suddenly. This was when I was down in Sussex the other night. I thought, maybe I better get one of these.
Yes.
And you have to put your social security number in and your driving license number,
right.
and then they give you a code,
right?
Which only used to be valid for 72 hours.
Right.
It's pretty stupid.
Yeah.
Now it's valid for 21 days.
Oh, okay.
So I've now got this code.
Yeah.
So I think I'm all set.
And do you have to give this code to the hire company at the other end?
Yeah, because apparently and this is where you might be lucky actually. Ooh, you might be lucky because now since I think June of 2015.
Yes.
Or December of 2015, they're no longer updating your paper license. So if you ever get those 3 points.
Yeah.
For going through the red X's.
Yeah.
They won't be able to write it on your paper diary.
No, it'll be on their computer.
But the record is on the computer.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's just as bad.
So I mean, I've got to go pick up my kids. They're going to watch a movie.
Yeah,
I'm going to put them to bed because it's one of those things where you have to get up at 3 in the morning, drive
to
the airport. Summer holidays. Here we come. Yeah. Now I'm delighted to say we're joined in the studio by somebody with far more sense than you, Yasmin Khan.
Yasmin,
very good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How
to
nice
you.
to meet you.
And you. I've never met either of you before.
Is that right?
Well, he'd probably say he thinks he met you before. He says it to everyone.
No.
I'm sure I met you.
Not at all.
Penny Smith was here yesterday, and he went, "Yeah, I think we met years ago."
And she confirmed that we did.
No, she wasn't sure.
In a hotel in Notting Hill. Yasmin,
she was
great
being
to see
polite.
She was, yes, I think so. I think so. He said he knew Magnus Linklater, who denied all knowledge.
Well,
so,
well, that was. So
that's
it's
over
a good
two.
shtick, though, isn't it? That thing of
I'm sure I know. Yeah, it's like that
before.
thing politicians do when they wave and point at the audience and go,
exactly.
"Oh, look, you're my friend over there."
Yeah, absolutely.
One day he'll get it right, though, and it will be someone there.
Well, you say that, but I mean, I've been with him a long time, and he hasn't got much right.
Anyway,
what's coming up on your delightful show?
Lots. We're going to look ahead to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival because that's starting today, and we love a bit of that.
We're going,
We're going.
Are you doing a show?
We're doing a show.
That's 3 nights over the bank holiday weekend.
That'll be fun. I did 23 nights once. It's exhausting.
I bet it is.
Yeah,
I don't think we could manage that.
3 nights will be good.
We could not manage that.
So that's to look forward to. But we're going to kick off by talking about food and the Olympics because campaigners have attacked the whole junk food marketing. Because we've got all these athletes.
Yeah.
Great, lovely, brilliant. And then they stood next to things,
fast food signs.
Yeah, logos for burgers and fizzy drinks and what have you. It doesn't add up. And should we be allowing this kind of advertising? Because every other day we get told, oh, kids are getting fatter. You need to watch what you're eating, blah, blah, blah. Right. And then we have this massive sporting event.
And they sponsor it all, but they sponsor it all. But I guess the trouble is, it's a bit like smoking sponsorship. Yeah. They did away with that. And now nobody's allowed to use cigarettes advertising for any sporting event.
Maybe we should be looking at the same thing for junk food.
Is it the same thing?
given the state we're in, and I include myself, the way that portion sizes are going and the way that we're becoming more unhealthy, I think it's something we need to consider.
But where will the money to sponsor all these massive global events come from? That's the problem.
You see, this is my question, is there are other brands, massive fashion brands, for example, or car
But then
brands.
you'll get people going, but look at the model sizes, let's ban them as well. You'll end up having nobody, wouldn't you?
We need a holistic approach.
We do. I think you're absolutely right. Yasmin Khan coming up, of course, next, right here on Talk Radio. We are the Two Mics. We hope there might be a podcast at some point between now and the 2 weeks
and the time
we're
we
away.
Get back.
And the time we get back. We're off on holiday for a while. Enjoy. Don't forget to follow the Two Mics at the Two Mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mics TV.